Okay. Why don't we, good evening, everybody. Hello. I would say Julia, but I don't think this crew knows. All right, everyone all set? I forgot to bring my gavel. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Town of New Canaan Town Council regular meeting for Wednesday, including public hearing, for Wednesday, May 20, 2026. We will go to the agenda item number 1, which will start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. We were supposed to have the Girl Scout troop, but apparently, are they here? Are they waiting? I don't recall seeing. It's unfortunate. Yeah. Okay. Well, in that case, who wants to lead us?
I'll do it.
All right. Penny will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone would please rise.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next up, we will get the roll call.
Hey, Janet Fonts, I'm here. Lena Lee, Mike Morrow,
Here.
Maria Naughton,
Here.
Kim Norton,
Here.
Hillary Ormond, Mike Rogers,
Here.
Christina Ross,
Here.
Heather Russell,
Here.
Eric Tuna,
Here.
Penny Young,
Here.
Jennifer Zonas.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, we'll now call the meeting to order, and then we'll move to agenda item number 2, which are the minutes. Approval of the minutes for the regular meeting held on April 2022, 2026, and the special meeting held on May 11, 2026. So if, I guess I'll just make that motion for the approval of the minutes for the regular meeting held on April 2022, 2026, and the special meeting held on May 11, 2026. Can I have a second? Seconded by Kim. Okay, so we will move into a discussion of the pending motion. Yes, Kim.
Okay, so I sent around a couple of changes to the April 22nd minutes, and I sent them to the whole town council, so I don't know if anyone's had a chance to review them. But if you look at the minutes, I'm going to start with page 4. Page 4 goes over a vote that we took, and I just wanted to have the minutes reflect what's in the video. So on the motion to approve 170,000 on page 4. I did not vote for that. And so I have some suggestion to say motion was approved by, with everyone who approved it, with Miss Norton did not vote in favor. And I can send this to whomever's gonna edit the minutes. At page 5, a similar situation happened with a second vote, where I did not vote for 3 sped vehicles and a maintenance vehicle. And it's recorded in the minutes that it was a unanimous vote, and the video does not reflect that. So I wanted to suggest that it be changed to the motion was approved by whoever voted for it, and Miss Norton did not vote in favor. And I have some other suggestions, but I don't know if you want me to stop at that.
Just so I'm clear, I want to understand it. Are you saying was it 2 motions that were inaccurately recorded, right?
Yes.
Okay, so the first motion was which one again?
Page 4. It says Miss Norton made a motion to amend the original motion, seconded by Mr. Morrill, to approve 170. Then we took a vote, and it says the motion failed with Miss Norton voting in favor, and it had everyone else who voted against it. And then there was a comment that it was a unanimous vote, but it wasn't, because I did not vote for it.
Okay.
So that's why I wanted the minutes to accurately reflect that I did not vote for that motion.
No, I understand. I'm just trying to understand. Was that
Yeah.
motion there? What was the second one? Just briefly.
The second one's on page 5, and I made a motion to remove 3 sped vehicles at 65,000 and a maintenance vehicle in the amount of 65. It says the motion failed with Miss Norton voting in favor. Then it has everyone else who voted for that. but I did not vote for it. So that's why I wanted to suggest it get changed to the motion was approved, but Ms. Norton did not vote in favor or something to that effect.
Okay, just stop right there, please.
So unfortunately, Tucker isn't here today, but I did hear about this, this part of the minutes. And unfortunately, when there is a roll call, if there is not unanimity on any topic that's being voted on, it has to be a roll call vote. There was no roll call vote. It was motions passes. If you actually look at the video, Kim, it says motion passes and there was no roll call. So unless there is a roll call vote, you did not signify that you didn't want to vote for something, and Mike said motion passes unanimously. So if at that point you wanted to say, no, please take a roll call vote, you had every opportunity to do that, but you didn't do that in the meeting. So the one item that you did, there was a roll call vote, that is reflected in the minutes.
Thank you for that clarification. I still stand by my suggested.
There was no roll call. I just want to put
Okay.
that on the record. There was no roll call.
Hold on, hold on,
I
hold on,
understand
hold
that.
on, hold on. First selectman spoke, awesome. Kim, respond, and
That's all.
then we'll take it down this way. Kim, please.
Oh, I just wanted to say I stand by my comments. I feel like the minutes should reflect the actual vote, and it was not unanimous. So from an ethical standpoint, I think it's important as public servants for us to be able to record the votes correctly and accurately. So I'm going to say that I still suggest those comments, and I'd like to hear from my colleagues.
Sure, Eric.
Yeah, the fact of the matter is that the motion was not passed unanimously. The fact that we did not follow the exact procedure does not contradict the fact that the motion was not passed unanimously. So I would be really hesitant to file minutes saying the motion was approved unanimously when in fact it was not.
Does anyone else have any thoughts on
I'm
it?
sorry,
Sorry,
Mike, did you
Donna.
not confirm that the motion passed unanimously?
Well, I definitely
then,
said that,
yeah.
and I know what the
So-
record reflects.
Yeah, I'm just
No, I
saying.
appreciate that. Yeah, no. Anyone else? Welcome to hear any other comments. Move.
I actually wasn't at the meeting, so, but in reading that, I feel the same way as Eric. I mean, the narration doesn't override what happened. I think you record what happened, which was the vote, the way it went. I'm not sure where it says there's no roll call, we record just what the chairman says.
It's the rules that if any vote of any board is not unanimous, you have to take a roll call. So when the chair called the vote, and you can go back to the video, when the chair called the vote, asked if there was no dissension, and he said motion passes unanimously. You can look at the video. And so once that happens, it is up to all of you. If you don't agree with the chairman's, motion check, you have to say roll call vote. You have to call for a roll call vote. Otherwise, you don't have order. And it was said passed unanimously and there was no dissent.
I understand what Mike said. I watched the video. I was not at the meeting. But the fact is, it did not pass unanimously. So the fact that we didn't follow a procedure shouldn't contradict the reality of what happened.
Well, then,
Despite what Mike said.
If you disagree, you should say, I disagree in the calling of the roll.
I do. No, I disagree. I disagree in the chairman's statement that the motion was approved unanimously.
But the person that was disagreeing didn't disagree.
So let me,
And
I
Christina,
don't- I'm sorry, Christina has this, I'm sorry, I didn't have my glasses.
I just want to say that I agree wholeheartedly with what Eric just stated.
Okay, thank you, Deanna. I appreciate that. And we don't need to kind of get too bogged down here. This is like, with these minutes, you want to kind of blow your brains out after a while. But Kim is correct to the extent that, she wants the record to reflect that she actually had expressed her desire to not approve that motion. My recollection, and I looked at the video too, as I said, all right, all in favor, and everyone said yes. There was no one saying no. Right? So 1 second, Eric.
Yep.
But with all that said, I think there's probably language we could agree on that's reflecting what actually happened. Is that it's not that the process and procedure wasn't followed; it was followed. Whether it was lost in translation when I was saying, okay, all in favor of the motion, everyone raised their hand, not seeing any dissent, the motion passes unanimously. Kim may have been, and I don't doubt at all that she was saying, I do not approve this motion, because she had explained why she wasn't agreeing with the motion. It was when I said, okay, all in favor, that's where the kind of, I'll just call it a hiccup. But I'm sure there's language we can incorporate here that says, while the motion was stated on the record as passing unanimously, and something to the effect that it did not actually, in fact, reflect that Member Norton had said she was against it. But the record is what it is. There was nothing that triggered me taking a roll call, as the first selectman was saying I'm supposed to do. Nothing triggered that for me. But I think the record absolutely needs to reflect that Member Norton did not vote in favor of that. So I think there's definitely language we could do.
We can correct the language or add to it.
So it's just a matter of that.
Sure.
So we could wordsmith a little bit and put that on hold for that until we get your satisfaction, if that's okay.
That sounds good.
What else
Appreciate
do
it.
you have? And we can just
Appreciate
table
that.
afterwards.
Okay, so on page 3, I wanted to make a suggestion that it's added. When I questioned, it says Miss Norton questioned, and it ends with life cycles. This had to do with bonding. And I wanted to add that I referred to the written guidance policy and the budget book fiscal year 26 entitled Bond Funding, page 255, that states that bonding is for major capital projects. So I think that's an significant addition, so that, the minutes make sense as to why I voted the way that I did and on subsequent votes, and also that I specifically referred to, something in our town documents that I interpreted in a certain manner.
Yeah,
So
Jennifer.
I just have a comment on that, which is just that in the years that I've been here, and definitely Eric, you've brought it up, and other people, we've talked about the minutes and like a level of specificity and granularity that is not supposed to be part of the minute. So if the group is going to agree with that, then we open the door to other people on other issues getting, more of their commentary in, because in general, when I read the minutes, there's a lot of things that I say and bring up that isn't, reflected in it. So I just want to point that out to be consistent.
Okay, any other comment on that particular?
I'd also like to make a comment on page 2 that something be stricken from the record. It says Ms. Ormond expressed strong disappointment with the timing of the objections, implying such concerns should have been raised earlier in the process. So
Which paragraph is that? Sorry.
It's page 2.
The penultimate one on page 2.
And I would just, in keeping with my colleagues' comments, Ms. Zonis, about where it says implying such concerns should have been raised earlier in the process, that is not in keeping with our practices to report factual statements. So I just want to make that comment.
Yeah, please.
I don't think I implied it. I think I said it directly, so we can change that word to stated, which is fine with me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's what the record was.
We shouldn't be implying anything,
Well,
I don't think I implied it.
I think you're both
I
right.
said
I
it.
think
Yeah.
you're right to say, you're right. We're not in the business of, editorializing or commenting
yep.
or inferring, implying. 100% agree with that.
Okay.
And I think Hillary is also correct that it was stated, this should have been brought up.
But it can
Her
come out.
statement.
I'm not wedded to it being in the minutes.
We could end it after the first clause if that makes if everyone's okay with that. Kim, if you're okay with that, why don't we just do that?
I'm fine with that.
along? But again, Kim is correct that we should not be saying implying stuff like that. All
So
right.
just change the wording to state.
Yeah,
I would
strike
just strike that.
strike the balance of the clause after the comma.
Okay, one last thing. Thanks for everyone's patience. At 2 hours, 13 minutes, we were asked to give our opinion in a poll about removing the electric restrictions on gas-powered leaf blowers. And I checked did research on FOIA in minutes. And basically what I learned is if it's a significant change to a law, which in this case is an ordinance that we've been considering for a long time, it should be reflected in the minutes. So I'm suggesting that something to the effect of poll was taken to keep electric restrictions in the ordinance. I voted for it. And then another poll was taken where it was asked who wants to delete the restrictions on electric. And that poll had 5 members voting to do that. So I just think that, and when I read FOIA in Robert's rules and things like that, the names are supposed to be recorded because it's a significant action that did affect the draft that we're going to be looking at to vote on this evening.
I'm sorry, did you say before that it was a significant change to a law?
Or an ordinance, a proposed ordinance.
It says that in the, can you cite the portion of FOIA?
I'm going to let you do your own research on that.
No.
But
you-
I don't have
then
a
I-
citation. I just did a global search on it to see what the standard is.
Are you
So
saying that, maybe I'm mistaken, but our names are supposed to be in there? Is there
yes,
something
it's supposed to
more than
be recorded like a vote. It was a poll, and it resulted in a huge section being taken out of the ordinance, which was then published in the paper, and that's what we're looking at this evening.
that? Eric?
I would just point out that it is not in fact yet an ordinance or a law. It is a draft that town council is considering and continues to consider until a vote is made. So I would along with Hillary, I would ask you to please provide the specific language that says a draft proposed ordinance applies in that case.
All right, so if we have two
Okay.
members that aren't prepared to vote, I want to give them the opportunity to have the full knowledge base so they can make an informed vote. So why don't we table that,
Okay.
okay? And we can
Yep.
come back to it next in June. And that's just, and by the way, this was all for the April,
22nd.
right? Are there any edits? So why don't we table April 22? Special meeting, any edits, anybody on special meeting of May 11th? Why don't we just vote on that, okay? So all in favor of approving the minutes for the special meeting held on May 11, 2026, raise your hand. All in favor? The motion passes unanimously. All right, number 3 on the agenda, public comments. Members of the public are welcome to speak to the town council on agenda topics scheduled for review and or vote. Speakers are requested to provide their name and street address, and comments will be limited to 2 to 3 minutes, subject to the total number of speakers. Just be mindful, everyone, that we do have the proposed ordinance on for the leaf blower, and at agenda item number 6 is a public hearing on proposed new ordinance. So all public comments we'll just take now, just to keep things moving along for you all right? So if anyone wants to talk about leaf blower, this will be the time.
Yeah,
And then we have a special advisory here.
do we have a, and we would just ask to keep the comments brief. If we've heard from you and we know your position, where, I think we're in a position to discuss and vote. And to the extent there's anybody who hasn't had a chance to speak about the leaf blowers, we'd love to hear from you too. And we would just ask to give them an opportunity first to speak. And then if anybody feels strongly that they need to reiterate their positions, then did you want to speak about the leaf blowers? Could you sign, do you mind signing? Oh, you did?
Yeah, so
okay.
as you're taking, actually, if you wouldn't mind coming up and sitting over here and then pull that mic close. And just to kind of echo my colleague's statements, everyone has a right who's here to come, in the public to come and speak about anything on this agenda. We're just saying we've had a ton of input on this, so just be mindful. We always hear something, we'd love to hear something new and fresh, but we're happy to hear what you've said before, but let's all just be mindful that, we have quite a few speakers and the council is prepared and will vote this evening. Okay, and remember, state your name and record.
And your
Hit record, you've been locked up. Or your Grammys, your name and address.
My name is Bob Papsco, and I live at 62 Thurton Drive in New Canaan. And I'm sorry, apparently this is very late in the process, but it just caught my attention now. But I'm all in favor of the leaf blower ban, the gas powered leaf blower ban. I think the noise is horrendous. And if there's a substitute for it, I think it's great that you're banning it. I think we're missing an opportunity, though. I'd love to see it banned at the spring cleanups, too, because those visits are much longer than the normal landscaper visits. And I think they're used very inefficiently there. I mean, often I see 2 guys with backpacks chasing a couple leaves across the lawn. I mean, I don't think they're used effectively at all. I understand Stamford, if I'm correct, passed an ordinance that's not in effect yet that bans use the leaf blower use in the spring and only allows it in October, November, and December, which I think would be terrific because there's a lot of leaves there. If they want to use that kind of equipment, they could be wet, they could be heavy. And so I think it would be wonderful. I love the ban, the proposal, but if you could stretch it out and ban it in the spring, that would be even better. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any comments? Did you discuss that already or?
We'll have our discussion after we make the motion to vote on the.
Hi, I'm Sean Keating. I'm also with David Rucci. We're both speaking on behalf of the same property.
Come on in.
So,
Come on up and you only get 3 minutes.
you got it.
Good evening. I'm David Rucci. We had put a letter in earlier from Weed Farm. Weed Farm's a piece of property off of Weed Street. It's about 33 acres or so. It stretches from sort of the bottom of Weed where Indian Waters is all the way up to Frogtown. It near Thurton Drive as well, near Wells Drive. So it's a big piece of property. It used to be a 4-acre lot, and then we bought the water company property since then. So this is a farm that's been operating. And one of the things that we're a little concerned about, first of all, we're for the ban in general, as far as it's for smaller pieces of property. We understand how disruptive it can be from both a noise and an environmental perspective when you're going through these properties, these small residential properties, and there's constantly noise. We understand that we don't have any issue with that. What we would like this board to consider is that the council to consider is the fact that other parts of the state, especially Westport, has adopted a 20-acre floor, essentially, where anything over 20 acres would not have to comply with this particular ban. And that's really important for us in this particular case because of the work that gets done on this Weed Farm property. And it also would be consistent with the exemptions you've already given for the municipalities, the parks, the schools. I mean, I went and just did a quick look at all the schools and parks, and every one is above 20 acres except for South School's got 12 and Bristow's got 16, but everyone else is over 20. In fact, most of them over 30 acres in acreage. So we just think it's really important. I mean, and I'll let Sean talk about the operational part of it because we really do need to use gas power for the most part. They do use actually a lot of electric power already on this property. And if the technology got better, they probably would use it more often. But to clean these parts of the property for not only like keeping open space, keeping like the rivers clean, keeping the trails clean, all these things they need to use more often on these particular pieces of property. So we would suggest that adding into the exemption J, that there's an allowance for, I think under 2E, we would actually ask that there be a 2F, that any properties over 20 acres would also be exempt in your particular consideration of this ordinance. I can let Sean talk a little bit about how sort of this farm particularly works and other large properties around. I mean, we think that like a restrictive policy like this doesn't really work for these larger pieces of properties. And it's sort of unintentionally not really creating what I think you guys are trying to create here. And like I said, we're for it in general on these smaller pieces of property. So we wouldn't want anything to happen on that particular. So I'll just let Sean talk.
And I'm Sean. I work at Weed Farm, and I'm sorry if there's any overlap because we prepared our stuff separately. So as David just said, it's a 32-acre home and garden and working farm on Weed Street. And we support the council's efforts to reduce unnecessary noise and the proposed restrictions on gas-powered leaf blowers. And I also want to say that we have and utilize electric blowers at Weed Farm for appropriate tasks. The owners, in fact, converted to strictly electric work vehicles on the property for this very reason. That said, on a property of this size, electric equipment has not yet reached the power or the runtime to be operationally viable for certain tasks. And the extra labor costs by using less efficient equipment also present an inequitable burden on large property. Large estates and agricultural scale properties operate under materially different conditions than small residential lots. And we asked the committee to adopt similar exemptions that Westport and Greenwich have adopted. Westport exempts properties over 20 acres, as David said, from their seasonal gas leaf blower ban. And Greenwich similarly differentiates restrictions based on parcel size. The overwhelming share of noise complaints arise from frequent commercial servicing of small, densely situated lots. A quarter-acre parcel and a 20-acre parcel are not comparable in terms of the impact on its neighbors. And we're surrounded at Weed Farm by a buffer of screening trees and acres of woodland, which means our blower use is often many hundreds of feet from the nearest neighbor. In just a practical element as well, I'd like to mention that the ordinance says that a single gas-powered blower is permissible on hard or man-made surfaces. We have over 100,000 square feet of driveway, cobblestone paths, patio areas, and I don't think it's practical or equitable to be allowed only the same equipment as a property that has a 500 square foot driveway. You know, the scale is off. Also, how would anybody, you know, who's calling in a noise complaint know that we're just blowing the driveway? You know, they can't see us. We're you know, a long way from anyone else. So I would ask you that you please include this narrow exemption, which will not weaken the ordinance, but allows it to support properties like Weed Farm, who are committed to preserving and maintaining these remaining large open spaces in New Canaan. Thank you.
It's just typically we don't really engage with the public, as counterintuitive as that sounds. But what precisely is the subparagraph F that you're asking for? Do you have like a specific formulation?
We would just ask that it be added that any properties over 20 acres would also be exempt.
Okay, that's okay. Got
I mean, literally one sentence.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just curious, is there a safety issue as well that you have to use gas to maintain this property?
Well, it's an efficiency element. We also are in charge of a small section of the Norotan River there, which is, you know, we keep clean and keep everything clear of that area. You know, there's only so much we can cover. A storm like tonight, for example, where there a lot of leaves came down over 32 acres. It may take us 2-3 weeks to get there. A neighbor next door hears a blower going in 2 or 3 weeks. They've forgotten there was a storm tonight, but we're still cleaning up storm damage, which is allowed for in your ordinance. So it's just a practical nature of such a large piece of property.
But the entirety of the property, even including this section of the Norwalk River, is privately owned. No public has access to
Correct.
it. So there's a differential there. You're not cleaning up for the benefit of anybody with the single.
The only benefit is that it's not, it's being preserved as open space, 32 acres of open space for the.
No, I was just referring to that storm cleanup.
Right.
That you were talking about.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
What's next? Oh, I'm sorry, Mike.
Do you happen to know how many properties in New Canaan are 20 acres or bigger?
I do not know that, but it's not very many.
I would say less than five or six. I mean, I know of 3 off the top of my head, but I can't think of anything more than, I mean, you have Clark Estate, you have Brookwood, which has been subdivided. You have this particular piece of property. Simonton, I think I don't know if that's still at 20 or not, but yeah, it can't be more than 5 or 6 in my guess. Like I said, most of them are really our schools and our municipalities and our parks. And like I said, all those are going to be consistent with your 20-acre rules.
Thank you.
Your 20 acre.
Thank you. Good question, Mike.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right, next up.
Oh, my turn? Oh, goodness. Hey, everybody.
Hello.
You know, it's been a year and I'm finally getting used to using this microphone. I'm not going to take a lot of your time. I just wanted to come up and thank you for all the hard work that everybody's put into this over the last year or so. You know, about a year ago, I reached a breaking point at my home. I wanted to enjoy some time outside on my own property. But once again, the constant noise from leaf blowers made that impossible. Many people in town have shared the same experience, whether inside the house or outside in the yard. There's just no escaping it. So, you know, you've heard all the complaints by now. You know what's going on. But a little bit of backstory for me. After reading a piece in the New Canaanite by John Seal, I wrote a response simply to vent my frustration I had no idea what the response was going to be, or if any. And so many friends and neighbors have been quick to respond in support, and we're here today as large part as a result of that. Along the way, I learned that this issue is more about noise. It's also about pollution, health, and quality of life, in addition to quality of life. I also learned how much people can accomplish when they come together and stay involved. So thanks everybody in the room for hanging in there with us. So thank you to everybody on the council and everyone who took the time to speak and show up and write and everything else. So I fully support the ordinance and urge you to vote on it in favor without further delay. That's all I got.
Thank you, Lars.
Thank you.
Hey, Wendy.
Wait a second. Hold on. Hold on. Wendy's quite a popular star here. She comes to every one of our meetings, rain or shine, sits quietly and observes the sausage being made. So to have her up here is quite an honor.
I am talking, I'd be interested in the exemption on the single gas powered leaf blower use. Well, by residents on hard and man-made surfaces. I live at Millport, 41 Millport, so it's a complex that hires landscapers. Would they be allowed, because it says residents, so would they be able to use one gas-powered leaf blower on the property as well as using the electric ones? Because they're heavily into it, and I'd rather have just one or none, but this seems kind of very broad, and whether that somehow it could apply to hired companies in apartment spaces, and just to make it more clear that they could use one or not is my voice.
I can't imagine there would be an issue with a multifamily dwelling having one leaf blower. I mean, I think.
And then the rest could be the electric, but
Right now, the ordinance has no restriction on electric use.
Okay, but to narrow them down to just having one is what I wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thanks, Wendy.
Thanks, Wendy.
Next up.
David Rucci.
Oh, sorry. Roy Abramowitz.
Hi, good evening. I'm not going to speak about leaf blowers. It's above my pay grade. What I'm going to speak about is the vote on the independent audit firm. I got a question. I don't remember reading anywhere that the audit committee voted on hiring PFK O'Connor again. And if I remember correctly, the procedure is that the audit committee is the one that vets the independent audit firm for the town. So we can't have the executive branch picking out our independent auditors because that's an overstepping of controls on management. It's supposed to be the audit committee that reviews the scope, the engagement letter, and then recommends. And I know for a fact that way back when I was working with Bill Perrette and Chuck Jacobson and Lake Kangas, they weren't exactly happy with that firm. And the other concern I have is this. Clifton Larson Allen, the independent auditors, the MSA was dated 10/9/24. And of course, through the blocking of the CFO and the first selectman at an audit committee meeting, we never saw that report. But I know for a fact that an internal control, bad procurement procedures, and self-dealing of elected officials. If we have an audit firm that's been auditing the town for 10 years and they never found an internal control they didn't like, Why are we rehiring them? They're deficient in what they do. Because we have an independent auditor saying, we have problems with internal control and procurement. And this firm never, ever cited one. So I'm concerned. I don't think the town council, without really reviewing this and going back to the audit committee, should vote on that. The second thing I want to talk about real quickly is the vote on P and Z being appointed and not elected. And it's a conflict of interest what happened. And I think the CRC was supposed to stop that kind of methodology and procedure. And this is something I wrote real quick. The tiebreaker to keep our P and Z appointed and not elected was cast at the CRC by the appointed chair of the Wetlands Commission, whose husband is an appointed member of the P and Z. She should have recused herself, but did not. I said, are you kidding me? An appointed town official voting to keep her husband's appointed position. This is the very self-dealing nonsense that the CRC was to end. Instead, the appointed CRC insider preserved her husband's appointed position, and I believe it's a total waste of time and taxpayer funds. So I think you're voting on some CRC procedures. I don't know if this is there. I just think that should be shelved and it should go back and it should be a vote without somebody whose husband is an appointed member who's also the head of wetlands breaking the tie on whether it should be elected or appointed. And I believe it should go to the public in a referendum or on the ballot. Those are my opinions.
Thank you, Roy.
Thank you for your time. Be safe.
Next.
Sorry.
Hi, I know you guys have heard from me a lot, so I'll make it quick, or I'll try to. I'm gonna just put a check mark beside Lars, thanking everybody for all their time and considering every little last iota of this ordinance. I think it's really well thought through, thoughtfully considered, and I appreciate it. I wanted to second the first gentleman's comments about the definition of summer. I would agree. I actually was initially going to say, well, the leaf blowing stopped a month ago, and now it's just grass clipping blowing. So I was going to suggest, and I know that that's not likely tonight, but it would be nice if the timeline were moved back, because I could have sat out on my porch for the last month without, I think, really impeding the efforts of spring cleanup, which I don't really actually think continues all the way till now. I think we're into the summer now. However, I think the first gentleman made a really good point that the blowing of wet leaves is not necessarily that effective, and it would be worthwhile to limit the leaf blowing to the fall with the gas-powered ones. Also, with regard to the gentleman who spoke about Weed Farm, I understand the difficulty of managing large properties. I don't think it's good policy to make exception for people who happen in New Canaan to own large properties. Paul Simon had a big property here. Other celebrities have had big properties here, and I don't think we want to set a precedent of making exception for people who own big properties like that, for whatever reason. Also, those properties have neighbors who've got to listen to the leaf blowers as well. All around that area of Weed, there are homes. And there was a gentleman who testified, he spoke before the ordinance committee, and he described being up on a ridge and the sound of the leaf blowers down below sort of rising up. It's a pervasive problem that encompasses noise and pollution. And so those are my thoughts. And I just want to reiterate my thanks to you for so carefully considering this ordinance.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Next.
Laura, sorry. I'll you're passing my comments. And then Angela Jameson.
Good evening. Angela Jameson, 1370 Ponus Ridge Road, New Canaan. I wasn't going to speak this evening, but as I am the subject of the alleged conflict of interest, I thought I would take this opportunity to just put the record straight. So I am a member of the CRC. I am chair of the Inland Wetlands Commission, and my husband, John Criz, is a member of Planning and Zoning Commission. The CRC took advice from Bertram Moses, Town Council, about potential conflicts of interest when members of the CRC were also members of other town government bodies. And the advice we received was that if you were on another town government body, you didn't have a financial interest or a personal interest. And the guidelines we received was that you should not lead discussion with that specific town body if you were on that town body yourself or if a next of kin was. Otherwise, you were perfectly entitled to express your opinion about those town bodies when they came up for discussion in the Charter Review Commission, and also to vote on any motions. So I would just like to set the record straight on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
There are two online. I'll unmute you and you can speak. Irene Hendricks is first.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. Appreciate that. I will also be brief because I think I've made comments about the leaf blower ordinance several times. Thanks to everybody who's helped move this forward. I think it's important that we have followed through, that we've kept focus on this incredibly important issue. And I really want to say that I think this is a great step forward for us as a proactive and leading town in our area. And that is all I will say. Thank you. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next.
Next is Jay Fusek's iPad.
John?
Yes, I'm trying to get online with the video as well, but I will, John Fusek, 37 Pepper Lane. I am speaking with regard to the gas leaf blower ordinance on behalf of the Conservation Commission. I am just speaking to make the council aware, in case they haven't read the minutes of the Conservation Commission meeting, which I would not expect people to have done, that the Conservation Commission unanimously endorsed the resolution from the Ordinance Committee on gas-powered leaf blowers because of the environmental concerns from noise pollution and air pollution. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments online or in this room? For Selectman.
First Selectman will speak.
Name and address.
Main Street. So I just want to also clarify the record because I was texting our CFO about comments made about the selection of the audit firm, and the audit firm was interviewed by the audit committee. There were multiple it went out to bid. Multiple audit firms were interviewed by the audit committee, and the audit committee selected the audit firm. So I just want to clarify the record.
Thank you. Okay. So again, no other comments. All right. Just so we're clear, and I want the record to be very clear, we'll move forward. We have one or two other items to handle before we get to the ordinance discussion, but we do have number 6 on the agenda item, public hearing, which says public hearing on the proposed new ordinance to the town code for gas powered leaf blowers. So we all doing it. So we do this procedurally correct. We're required by state law to keep that number 6 public hearing agenda item open. And I'm going to give everyone the opportunity again to say something just so this process is consonant, so to speak, harmonious with what the law requires. So it's not like, say, that it passes tonight and someone says, oh, you didn't give the actual public hearing and the public comment section wasn't enough. All right, so I'm just trying to move things along, but we all have to comply with the process. Okay, with that said, let's move on to agenda item number 4, Board of Education enrollment account. Approval of a request for a special appropriation in the amount of $360,000. The funds will be used for potential enrollment-related expenditures. The source of the funds is the general fund. 10 minutes by Dr. Lutzy. And there's a footnote here, sort of. It says, note, the original request was for 500,000. So I know we have Dr. Lutzy remoting in. And just as a reminder, guys, let's just keep this discussion tight to the agenda item that's on the docket here. Thank you. Dr. Lutzy, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Mike, and thank you to the entire council for giving us a couple of minutes here in a very packed agenda and a very important agenda. So we have, as you know, when we built our budget for the fiscal year 2027, we made the strategic decision not to increase the enrollment expectations around our kindergarten, at least the staffing, et cetera, given the unknown variables that existed. We just didn't know how many kids we have in kindergarten. So as you'll recall, we rolled forward the same staffing model that we are currently using this year, even though the enrollment numbers were projected to be significantly higher. Turns out that decision was wise because there's been the variability that we were thinking about. And it has not materialized in the way that the enrollment projections had predicted they would at least 2 of our 3 buildings. So what we've done, just to recap very quickly, as you'll recall, in the budget, we rolled the model forward that we were currently using now with the number of sections we have in kindergarten, knowing that the projections had us increasing. And we had agreed that we'd come back to the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, and the council to request an appropriation that would help us if and when the increase in kindergarten did materialize. And so I'm very happy to report that it looks at this point that the current number of sections that we have over at East Elementary School will meet the needs of our enrollment next year. I mean, things can always change, but as it stands today, and this is what we know. So it does not appear that we'll need modular classrooms over at East next year, based on the enrollment that we have today and where we're projecting it's going to be when we start school in the fall. And I think that that's good news. That's a sigh of relief for a lot of people. It doesn't mean that we won't need them for the fiscal year 28, but we're dealing with what's in front of us now. So that's why we also wanted to wait before coming before the town bodies for the appropriation, as we got close enough to be able to make some well-informed projection estimates. Over at South, we've actually seen a little bit of a drop in their kindergarten year to year. So there's a little bit more room over at South, which is also good news and not expected in the projections. But again, not entirely surprising given, and you've been a part of the conversations we've had about the shift in demographics of folks that were moving into town right around the pandemic, where in the past we had couples with children, and then when those children became school age, they would often look to move into town and enroll their children in school. What seems to have happened in the pandemic was couples moved in before having children and then started their families in New Canaan, which is what accounts for that increase in birth rate. That's our hypothesis. It's holding up right now, and we'll see if it does in the years ahead. The one school that is increasing by a little over 30% at this point in kindergarten is over at West. And so we do have to implement the planning around creating more space at West for those kindergarten classrooms. And so what that entails is moving 2 sections of our pre-K from West over to South. South does have the room. And that's really the purpose of the special appropriation we're talking about this evening. The cost would be a refurbishment of the pre-K playground that we have over at South. We've had the pre-K over at South in the past. About 20 years ago, maybe less, we moved over to West, given enrollment shifts when South was the school that was growing, more quickly than West. So now the opposite's true. We're looking to move 2 sections back, leave 3 over at West. That'll free up some space for the 1 or 2 additional kindergarten classes we're anticipating now, and get us well positioned for the new school year. The original request was for $500,000, but thanks to the DRIP funding, it's called, it's a grant from the state that comes to school districts that's meant for district repair and improvement program. So that's meant for capital repairs, capital improvements, investments in HVAC and other things in our buildings. We've checked very carefully, and we can use that for playgrounds as well. So that 140 some odd dollars that we're receiving from the state is actually being taken off the top of the 500, and that's how we get to the 360, and that's why it has the asterisk with it. When I spoke with the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance, that money hadn't been received yet from the state, so we didn't know it was coming, or at least we didn't necessarily have all the details around it. So now that it's in hand, we have the details, we've checked, and we can use that to reduce the request down to 360. And so I'm here to request your approval of this special appropriation. And the reason it's a special appropriation is that every dollar that's spent from the account will be accounted for with the Board of Finance, and will be, it's still the town account that we're using. So it's similar to our capital projects. I know we've called it a non-lapsing account. We've really been using that nomenclature because it's going to span over 2 fiscal years, because we'd have it in place for this year because we'll need it immediately to get going for the playground and to get the equipment on site and be ready for the start of school year. And it'll span into next year as well. But as a special appropriation, which we've done in the past, it will be, it'll stay on the town's books. Anything we spend, of course, will be accounted for and run through the Board of Finance appropriately. And the number was arrived at, thinking about, it's a little, estimates are around 200,000, give or take, for the playground. It costs about $50,000, give or take, to outfit a pre-K classroom or a kindergarten classroom. And the additional costs could go to staffing if need be. We'll try not to use it for that. We don't have to, because as an operating cost, we'd rather use operating money. So we're going to look and see about that. But there are other materials and supplies that are necessary. So the 360 that we're requesting would come out of the general fund in this year, according to the conversation by the Board of Finance that I joined last week. And we'd look, of course, with if there are some funds at the end of the school year to make that whole and balance and net that out.
Thank you, Dr. Lutzy. Okay, I'll open it up for any questions. Penny?
As this increase in numbers proceeds through the other grades, is this big bulge, like in a snake, going to be problematic and having adjustments made to all of those other classrooms?
Yeah, great question, Penny. So what we're seeing is this increased birth rate is not just in 2021, we're seeing it in 2022, and it appears to be the same in 2023. So what I believe we're seeing is this increase is going to continue, and it's going to compound each year as the larger class moves up, and then a new larger kindergarten class comes in. So we do have to do some planning for the short and long term, and we're going to be doing that in earnest this year with the Board of Ed and engaging the council and the Board of Finance and Board of Selectmen and community in that.
So should that planning not be already underway, so that we're not just addressing today's problems, but we're addressing tomorrow's problems?
It is underway. That planning and that work, of course, there's quite a bit of work that goes into making proposals around residency, catchment areas, districts, and redistricting facilities, et cetera. So that work is well underway with the board, and we'll be planning to have more discussions around that in the future months.
Eric. Dr. Lutzy, thank you for being with us. The 140,000 is coming from the state, 360,000 from the town. That's still 500,000. I was following your numbers. You said about 200,000 for the playground and 50,000 for refitting a kindergarten classroom. Where does the other 250,000 go?
Well, sure, Eric. And that's an estimate, right? So
Yeah.
ultimately the money goes nowhere until it's spent. It stays on the town's books and we just draw down from it, right? And all of that is accounted for. So we're looking at perhaps 2 kindergarten classrooms over at West, depending upon what happens between now and the start. We're at 1 now, but with just a couple of more kids enrolling, we'd go up to 2. So with those 2 additional kindergarten classrooms, that's 2 additional outfits, which is about 50,000 each. We're also looking at staffing, because we didn't build any new staffing into our operating budget. We kept that flat. So if the operating budget can't support it because of other enrollment shifts, et cetera, then we would need to use this appropriation to do the staffing. So between those classrooms, the staffing, and then some other needs around pre-K, because as you know, the pre-K is 50-50 with students in special education program and typicals. So we'll need some supplies around occupational therapy, physical therapy, and perhaps a little bit of fractional staffing use for speech language needs and things like that. So the 500 gives us, we believe, sufficient and appropriate if that scenario comes to pass. And again, we'll draw down from it, and it would be going to forward with the community as we do with our capital project. So it's not, doesn't come into our operating budget in any way.
Thank you.
Sure.
And then Mike.
Yeah, Dr. Lutzy, I just have a question. You said that South was getting a drop in enrollment. So will there be any offsets in the overall staffing or amount that it's going to cost us to operate South School if there's a drop in enrollment? And would that,
There may
like I
be.
said, affect? Yeah.
Yeah, there may be, and that's where we're hoping that and expecting that, but we can't count on it quite yet, which is why we didn't want to adjust the number. Thought it was too soon.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if things do track the way they've been tracking throughout the summer, we may be able to pick up an FTE there as well.
Okay, thank you.
Mike.
Dr. Lutzy, hi. I remember seeing that East was at 98% capacity in the school. And now that you've got a little space at South, would it make any sense to move some of the, use some of that space there and spend some money to get the kids kind of evened out?
Mike, that's part of a larger plan, because that, the sort of pocket redistricting, as I've heard it called, takes quite a bit of work, because you've got different neighborhoods and families and folks that are in different places. So that may be part of the solution longer term, like intermediate term even. Going into next year, it would be too soon.
Any other questions for Dr. Lutzy? Christina, is your hand up?
Christina had her hand up.
Sorry.
No, I have no questions at this time.
Actually have one more.
Oh, wait, Penny has.
Actually have one more.
Penny.
And in your strategic long-term planning, what, if anything, is being factored into your thinking on the possibility down the line that Hartford is going to mandate 3- and 4-year-olds?
Yes, that is certainly part of the conversation. As a matter of fact, they've put some incentives into legislation for pre-K buildings and pre-K construction. So all of that is being carefully considered in the planning. Yep.
Because that could be a whole structure in and of itself.
Yeah.
It certainly could. And that's
which is a little scary.
I know it is. I know it is. So as we are reviewing now and developing, so to be a little more specific, because I don't want to speak vaguely, we're in the process of developing educational specifications for our elementary schools, right? So which essentially looks at program and what are the facility needs to ensure that if you were to renovate or build a facility, it would meet the needs of your program instead of adjusting your program to meet the limitations of the facility. This is the step you do when prior to bringing proposals forward, so that you understand what the program is, what the facility needs are, and how those things work hand in hand. And we're well in the process of doing that now. And by June, we hope and expect to have some specifics to share about that.
Okay, any other questions for Dr. Lutzy? All right, no other questions? We'll move forward with the vote. All in fit. Well, make the motion.
Okay, I move to approve a request for a special appropriation in the amount of $360,000, funds to be used for potential enrollment related expenditures. Source of the funds is the general fund.
Jennifer seconds. All in favor of the motion? Motion passes unanimously. Yes? All right. We're running nothing here. All right.
Thank you, Dr.
All right. Thanks, Dr.
Thank you
Leslie.
for getting me onto an already packed agenda. Thank you all.
All right, moving on to agenda item number 5, New Canaan Museum and Historical Society update on the future plans of the New Canaan Museum and Historical Society campus improvements. 10 minutes, Nancy Geary.
Hi, good evening.
Hello.
I'm Nancy Geary. I'm the Executive Director of the New Canaan Museum and Historical Society, and Alec Casey.
Just pull the mics closer. We can hear you, but not every, and pull them close.
Sorry.
They'll move close.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm Nancy Geary. I'm the Executive Director of the New Canaan Museum and Historical Society. And with me is Alec Casey, who's Vice President of our Board of Governors. We're here tonight because, as some of you probably know, the museum recently purchased the adjacent 2.3 acre property that belonged to St. Michael's Lutheran Church. And we closed on that last year, and we've spent about the last 9 months working on how we want to reorganize the campus. A big part of that is to remove a huge section of the asphalt parking lot and make more green space, to build an outdoor classroom, and to build a picnic area, because we have come to realize that our green lawn is used by many, many people, many of whom don't have anything to do with the Museum and Historical Society, but people that enjoy being outside. As part of the plan, we would very much like to move the Gores Pavilion in Irwin Park to the campus. For those of you that are not familiar with Landis Gores or the pavilion, Landis Gores was a classmate of Philip Johnson's, part of the group at Harvard Graduate School of Design that were taught by Marcel Breuer. When he graduated, he went into World War II, was part of the team at Bletchley Park that broke the German code, came back to New Canaan, and was unemployed, and Philip Johnson hired him to be his assistant on the Glass House. So he's a really remarkable man, remarkable New Canaan story. Sadly, when he left Philip Johnson's employment and started on his own, he contracted polio very quickly, and had a remarkable life after that with his wife, Pamela Gores, who died recently, sort of keeping him alive and his business alive. And as part of that, John Irwin and Jane Watson asked him to build their pool house at Irwin Park. And so the little 1960 pool house was built to lots of accolades and IMPay and other notoriety. Notable people showed up for a celebration of its opening. If you've been to Irwin Park recently, you know that the pool is gone, has been gone for a long time. The house is now gone. And so the little pool house sits with really no architectural reference. And the museum operates it under a use agreement with the town. The town owns it. It is very small. So the town really has no use for it, which is why we operate it as a use agreement. Our use for it is that we get people from all over the world that come to New Canaan because they're interested in the history of the mid-century modern architecture. And other than the Glass House, this is the only public building that's open, that's a demonstration or an illustration of this architecture. So we have had as many as 300 Spanish architecture students coming on a rainy afternoon to come out in groups of 30, because the building only holds 30 people. It's been part of house tours. It's been part of all kinds of people that are really, really interested in this aspect of New Canaan's history. We would like to move it to our property where it could be open whenever we're open, which right now is Tuesday through Saturday. We're open full days, Tuesday through Saturday. It could also be open in the evenings, which right now the restrictions on Irwin Park is you have to vacate by dusk. So it would have a life. I mean, it would really have a life as a museum. I have spoken to the 3 Gores daughters, who all of which, Liz Donovan, Ainsley Gilligan, and Valerie Gores, all were so excited by this idea and also said that their parents would be too. So I brought some diagrams so you can sort of see what we're thinking of doing. This is our combined campus now.
So for those of you that have been there, this is the main townhouse in our lecture space. This is the Rock School, which is New Canaan's first district school. It's already there. This is the Rogers Studio. That's the first landmark building in New Canaan. This is our new building that houses the carriage. If you've driven on Owen-Oak Road, you've probably seen the carriage. And this is the 1764 Hanford Silman House. So the idea would be that the Gores Pavilion would be sited in this square and we would call this our cultural village, because we've got a little bit of everything from New Canaan's history covering really 200 years. The reason that this looks a little different is right now, this is all parking, and this is the proposed expanded green space. From this site is from Owen-Oak Ridge. Oops, sorry, upside down. If you look up from Owen-Oak Ridge, if you're walking down from St. Mark's to town, this Walworth Terrace is already there, and this would be looking up our lawn, and you would see the pavilion. Part of the reason we also, here, I'll go back to the microphone. Part of the reason that we also want to do this is, if anyone's been in the pavilion recently, the doors don't open. There's a lot of issues with its maintenance. I understand why, when I talked to Bill Osman and Tiger Man, it's not a priority for them. It's not a town-used building. But, part of it is our commitment to restore it to what it was and be able to operate it as a museum. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? We have Jennifer.
So exciting. This is a great presentation. And so just taking what you just said, so you were saying it was in disrepair. Would you, once it was moved, I have two questions. Once it was moved, would you guys be paying for the repairs?
Yes. So there's a couple things. One is the doors are not operational. And part of the design of the initial design is that because it was a pool house, there's supposed to be these doors that open so the indoors and the outdoors are completely connected. You can't open those doors right now. The other thing that's happened is over time, the single pane glass has fogged. So that has to be replaced. And the other thing, and I'm not saying anything that I haven't said to Bill Osman directly, but when the town redid the roof, they changed the way that the gutters were designed and added scuppers on those gutters. Landeskors, if you look at his memoir, the whole vision of this was that no water was supposed to come off the building, and so that the drains were designed to drain towards the building into an internal pipe that took the water away. That was redesigned when the roof was redesigned. We would like to restore it, and it would mean a lot to the Gores family as well, because they were very upset about this. So the idea is to put it back into its 1960 condition and have it be a museum.
And just one more quick question for Nancy, Chairman.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
So, is there an estimate for the moving cost? Do you guys have that?
Our approximate moving cost is $1 million. That's an old estimate. There's still an issue about whether the building is best moved in 3 pieces or in one piece. I think at this point, as the selectmen and the Board of Finance have very kindly explained to me, we have a long process to get through, including even if Town Council approves, there's steps after that, and the Historic District Commission and P&Z would weigh in on the move onto our campus. So we're a long way down the road. We're a long way from reaching our goal, I should say. So I think the thought is we have this rough estimate. We're not going to go back and back and back to try and get more accurate estimates. We will get an estimate when we're ready to go.
Thank you.
Eric, then Mike.
Nancy, hi, thanks. This is a great presentation. From where would the funding come, do you propose, for moving and restoring all of the work?
We have already kicked off a capital campaign for everything that we're talking about doing. It includes some interior work in St. Michael's Lutheran Church to make it a more of a flexible space where we can do some programming. It includes taking out the asphalt and building the classroom that I mentioned and some of the other stuff. So that capital campaign kicked off April 8th, and the total was $2.5 million for that. And so we're actively fundraising for that.
Thank you.
No way.
Hi.
Mike, yeah. go.
It's an interesting idea. And it is a beautiful building and of course historically important. You know, putting it in that compound, do you feel, I mean, is there, out in Irwin, it could breathe. I recognize it's a maintenance hassle for you guys, but you do have space around it. You really can appreciate it from different angles and different places. Putting it in with 4 other houses right around it or 4 other structures right around it, don't you feel like it's going to make it feel closed in and not as important?
We thought a lot about that. So the thing is that because the front of the building will be facing Owen-Oak, it will have a pretty expansive vista down the lawn. The back of the building will be facing into the other buildings. So we looked at some other spots for it. None of them were either as visually interesting or as practical. Part of this also is that we're in the education and museum business, and so we want visitors to come and see everything and be able to learn everything. Our campus is enormous. People with any kind of mobility challenges are already struggling to see everything that we have to offer. And so we feel like we can preserve the vista that it had at Irwin by having it face down the lawn, but still be an integral part of what we can offer as a cultural institution.
And then as a follow-up question, not different though.
Yep.
I happen to know that St. Michael's is doing a call sermon for a full-time pastor. Are they concerned about losing the parking?
No, they were quite excited about the idea of the additional. We're only losing 7 spots.
Like 8.
Yeah, 7 or 8 spots. It's just being reconfigured. Right now, if you visit our campus, there is an access road that we don't need. That's a lot of cement. There's sort of these series of little islands of nothing in the parking lot. And then there's parking for 106. And I think we're going to be at about 98 or somewhere around there. It's not a material change. The other thing is that St. Mark's is right next door, and St. Mark's and the Historical Society have a good relationship about sharing parking. And I think all the churches have good relationships about sharing parking. So I think when St. Michael's right now would have to, probably grow 10-fold, 20-fold before they would need more parking.
I think
So Janet, Kim, and then Penny.
I just want to compliment you on this project. I mean, it sounds like a win-win for the town and preserving an important part of New Canaan history. So I'm very excited about this. Just want to make sure that it's open to the public.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And anyone can, and will there be tours?
We have to figure out programming. We got to get it there first.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
The way our museum works, we're open Tuesday through Saturday, 10 to 4 by appointment. A lot of our programming is free. Admissions, if you're not a member, is $10. We have been known to waive that for people that $10 poses a challenge. So we will do programming around it. I'm sure we will do architectural programming. We have tours all the time. If you come into the museum, you can actually get a tour of the entire campus virtually anytime we're open. So we had about 6,000 visitors last year, and we're expecting that most of those people would want to see the Gores Pavilion if it had been on our campus. We do find that when we meet somebody at the Gores to show them that, they don't want to come to our main campus. And when we say, oh, well, we also have this building up in Irwin Park, they say, I don't have time.
Interesting. Thank you.
Kim, then Penny. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. I think it is an incredibly important building. It's really the only public modern, because even getting into the glass house, there has to be tickets and you have to get transportation. So it's a really accessible building, and it does point so much to the history of New Canaan. Can you talk a little bit about the history of funding the repairs on the building? And I believe it's on the state historic register, and how the state's been involved in keeping the building preserved over the past, I think, since 2007 when the town took it over.
Okay, so the way that the expenses have been split, the town maintains the exterior, the museum pays for the interior, we pay for its insurance, and we pay for its electric. So for example, we recently had to replace the hot water heater that was on the museums. The roof had to be done. That was a town expense. My understanding is they did get some state funding for that or a grant of some sort for that. So it's, but here's the thing is that the town is spending money to maintain it and not use it. The museum is spending money to maintain it, and we don't have the staff to keep somebody up there all of our open hours. So we're not using it very much either. So that's part of the problem is everybody's spending money and the building is not really open to the public. I mean, you have to call me and make an appointment unless it happens to coincide with something that we're doing up there. It's not open to the public. We just feel like it's both the town and the museum lose on this building.
So thank you. So with the state being involved with the funding, are you aware of any easements or preservation easements that are a result of getting that funding through the State Historic Preservation Office, otherwise known as SHPO?
Yes, and we're going to, it's one of our many hurdles that we're going to have to do to talk to them. They may say we can't move it. I mean, we could go through all of this process and they would say no. I don't think that they're going to say no because the situation for the building is so different than what it was. Having no house there really makes the history of the house very different. I would also like to say that the Rogers Studio, which was designated by the Department of Interior in 1966 as the very first landmark building in New Canaan, was moved from St. Mark's property. That was the original John Rogers home to the museum, and it received its designation after the fact. So, I mean, after the move. So I think that we have a good relationship with SHPO and we expect to have a lot of conversations around this. But I'm optimistic that they will think that this is a good idea. I mean, nobody wants to see this building fall apart. And I think it's in 2027, our use agreement ends, and the easement that the state does hold also ends in a few years.
Thank you. And one last question. Is it eligible for National Register if it moves? Because I believe it is eligible for National Historic Register at the current site that it sits at, which is a huge accolade for our town and could bring in so much tourism and notoriety for the town. Is it still eligible if it's moved to your site for National Historic Register?
Well, I don't know why it wouldn't be, because the Rogers Studio got a landmark designation, which is a lot harder to get than a National Register designation. And that got it after it was moved. So if that was something that everybody thought was appropriate for it, it's interesting to me, it was before my time, but it was interesting to me that when there was a designation made, it was with the state and there wasn't an effort to get it on the National Registry. I don't know whether it's because it's too small. I haven't looked into that because I don't know whether there was some thought that it wasn't appropriate at the time. But yes, I mean, we treasure all our buildings, and so we would want them to have as many accolades as they could possibly have.
Thank you.
I can experience your enthusiasm for this project and in developing your site. Whoops, sorry about that. Right.
Impossible.
As you know, I did a massive study of all the town buildings some years ago, and this was in it because the town has a relationship with the building. So there was a feeling at that time that we want to not have responsibility for as many buildings as we have. At the time, it was 56, and then we've added another one. So that is, obviously going to be a factor in thinking of whether or not the town wants to continue to have responsibility for this building. I also have been recently involved in preservation efforts. As you know, I was quite involved in the preservation of the 1913 building. And so I And I live in a modern myself, not one of the moderns, but a certainly modern house. And so I have an interest in architecture and preservation and all those other dynamics go with it. I'm a little surprised that you would be coming to us now prior to having gone through conversations with a whole number of organizations and individuals. And I know you say you have the three daughters. I find that surprising because Liz was just vehemently opposed to the town not taking care of the building when she was on the town council. So to then just, say, okay, not have the town involvement was surprising to me. I think the historic district is going to really be concerned about how all this development is happening, in their backyard, the historic district. I don't know about SHPO as to what their response is going to be to the designation that they already have. And I would have thought that you would have already had some serious conversation with them to see whether or not it's a go or a no-go. Because if it's a no-go, then obviously that changes the whole direction of, what your plans are on the campus. So there are a number of hurdles. I suggest that you really pursue each and every one of them before you really come back to us. Because if it's not a go, there's nothing for us to decide. And I think there's enough of a question on some of these various relationships that could be hurdles that you're not going to be able to get over, or they're easy, but we don't know that. So I have some concerns. I can't be just wildly enthusiastic right now until some of those other areas have been addressed and, really where you're going in legitimately. So.
She's trying to go, but he's not.
All right, yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
I appreciate your comments. There are so many people that have a stake in this building that we had to start somewhere. And we have talked to the selectmen and we've talked to the Board of Finance, and it was recommended that we talk to you. So we're trying to dot every I and cross every T, but there has to be a process. And the Historic District Commission and P&Z wouldn't be involved unless and until we can actually move it. I mean, we would then have to do architectural drawings and exact location and everything else. These renderings are not sufficient for P&Z. We're going to have to give them much more precise things. As you know, we're a relatively small nonprofit, and we'd rather not spend that money unless we've gone through at least the initial hurdles to see if this is a viable option.
Heather.
I just want to quickly say I am actually very excited, and I do thank you for coming early on to talk to town council about it. Sometimes we get things late in the game, and so thank you for doing that. I come from Houston, Texas, with the Menil collection and historical homes, and I'm so proud to be in New Canaan where we have this opportunity. So I do thank you for doing that, and I'm excited to see where we can get with it.
Yeah, to piggyback on what Heather said, I think we're early in the process and they're here to socialize the idea. You're not, correct me if I'm wrong, you're not asking for $1 million from us tonight.
No.
Based on any of this.
If you want to give it to me, I'll take it.
Right? Let's do it. But yeah, I mean, so this is just you presenting your ideas. So we're not quite there yet. And I'm sure, Nancy, you're extremely capable. You have an incredible board. I have no doubt that you will cross every I or cross every T and dot every I. And so again, like Heather said, I really appreciate you coming and presenting this vision to us. As you know, I love the Historical Society. I love the campus. I think it's one of the more beautiful places here. And I think moving the Gores Pavilion there, where right now it's at Irwin, and it's kind of like, what's this doing here? So I think it makes practical sense, and also it's inspirational. So I appreciate you coming to socialize the idea with us early on.
All right, and Derek.
Partly as a follow-up to my other question. First of all, I appreciate the information. This is very helpful, and getting it early is tremendous. what, through this process over the next several months or years, or however long it takes, what exactly is it you would be seeking from the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance, and the Town Council?
My understanding is because it's a town-owned building, you would have to agree that this was a good idea. And that then the building, there's some notification, a notification that a building is for sale. I mean, I think the hope from the museum's perspective is that if we paid all of the moving, we're not going to have to buy it for much. It would be a, nominal amount. And so that's the process. Then once we have town approval to try to buy it, then you post your notice. If nobody else comes forward, we could buy it. And at that point, we could go and try and get the Historic District Commission to approve it and P&Z to approve it. SHPO primarily SHPO is a conversation that can happen a little bit parallel. But I just chose to come here first.
Well, thank you. I just want to clarify that you don't envision coming to Town Council, Board of Finance, and Board of Selectmen asking for an appropriation or any kind of legislative action other than approving you're buying it and moving it. Is that correct?
Not at this time, no.
Thank you.
Not at this time.
Okay.
So with the SHPO contributing to the preservation of the building with an easement on site, I do think it is a cautionary element to think about checking that first before continuing to go to boards and commissions. My question is if you don't get permission to move it from SHPO because there is an easement, because I think there was a second grant maybe in 2020 that comes with.
That was for the roof.
So there's one easement that expires maybe 2031 from the 2011 repair, and then there's a second easement that I think starts in 2031 based on the 2020 grant. So this could potentially be tied up till 2040 or something like that. So I just would appreciate that being checked before continuing to at least come to us for, vetting this idea. But if it doesn't work out, what is your plan for that building? Because it sounds like it's kind of, you kind of think it's stuck in the middle of a park somewhere. It's what will happen to the building? Like, should we be prepared to find someone else to take it over? Or if you don't get to move it?
We have a use agreement through June of 2027. I started conversations with the prior selectmen to renegotiate that use agreement now more than 6 years ago. We're very interested in the building. It's just, it's very expensive and wildly impractical and underutilized where it is. And so we certainly think this is a better idea for it. If we don't, the way we have staged what we're going to do to our campus, the Gores Pavilion would be the last thing to arrive. So it wouldn't, we can go ahead with what we want to do, whether the pavilion arrives. We hope it will. I don't think at this point we haven't gotten to the point of, we would never walk away from the building, but I think that there would have to be a better understanding of what the museum could do with it. We're very, very restricted on what we can do with the building right now. We can't even, and I've talked to Tiger about this, we can't even really fundraise or do something commercial in there.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. So wrap this up. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, Maria, you had a question? Go, please. I'm sorry, I didn't see it.
When in 27 does your use agreement end?
June.
So a year from now?
Yeah.
Okay. That's
Okay, now we can move on. Agenda item number 6, public hearing. A public hearing on proposed new ordinance to the town code for gas-powered leaf blowers. See Exhibit A. So attached to our agenda that each member has is the proposed ordinance, and
Yeah.
it's been out and published for X amount of weeks, consistent with state statute. So I know I made a little speech earlier about having the opportunity to speak. So I'm all reiterating that if anyone would like to now speak on this particular topic, if you feel like you need any additional hearing and would like that opportunity, both here and online and the entire planet, you're more than welcome to come on up now and speak again. If there's any other further thought on your mind that you feel like we must know, please come up now. Please give your name. Doesn't look like there's anybody else. So with that said,
Mike, I'd just like to ask the people online if they'd like to speak now, they can raise their hand and then I can address them.
perfect. Thank you. All right.
Robin Fryer was asking in the chat to speak. Are you available?
He said he wrote an email that he had tried to get in before. And Charles Robinson tried to get in before as well, and they weren't able to speak. But I don't know if that's about leaf blowers or
Right.
public
It's about
The
comment.
audit.
Yeah, so that's the this
Well, I think
particular.
Fryer might be speaking on leaf blowers. I'm not
No,
sure.
no,
Can you hear me? I don't think I have them.
Okay, there he is. Robin, go ahead. What do you want to talk about? Leaf blower or
so-
audit?
How about both? I'm just trying to see if I can get the video to work, but no, you'll just have, sorry. Certainly, firstly, leaf blowers, that's why I joined the meeting. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay, so I've spoken at many of the ordinance subcommittee meetings. Totally in favor of this. I listened to the speakers earlier. What we have in front of us is a compromise of 2 years of hard work by Hillary and her committee, and I'm all in favor of just voting for it tonight. There were some new points raised tonight that have not been raised in subcommittee meetings, but let's get the show on the road, get something out. And as I said at the last subcommittee meeting, over the course of the next year, let's review it and revisit it and tweak the ordinance as we need to. But I would strongly encourage the council to vote on it as it is and get it out. So 1st of June, we have the ordinance in place. So that was that. What I wanted to say on the audit side, this is in item 8. So if you've got the agenda in front of you, the ad hoc committee, in fact, just to put the record straight, last met in May of 24. Mr. Chairman, you're a member of that, as is the first selectman, and we recommended to reappoint PKF, who were our auditors, for a further 3 years and to enter into a 3-year contract. The council approved that. Probably it was at your June 24 meeting, I imagine. And so this audit now for 2025, which they are starting up, is, I guess, the second year of that contract. So they are the auditor. They have a 3-year contract. So we're not approving them. I think, and I don't have your papers, what you're being asked to approve is an engagement letter for the 2025 audit, which they'll be starting up soon, right, as well as their fee. Now, just want you to know that the audit committee has not seen that letter. Okay, I'm not saying we should have seen it. But we have not reviewed it, and I don't know if there are any changes from the previous year. I also don't know if the fee of 117 is in accordance with the 3-year contract. Hopefully, the CFO can answer that question, because where I am now, I can't access that 3-year contract. That's all I wanted to say on that. Just some points of clarification. Thank you.
Thank you. There are other speakers out there, Linda?
Is there anyone else that would like to raise their hand and speak online?
Okay, fair enough. And in that case, we'll move forward with proposed new ordinance, agenda item number 7, a final review and vote to adopt proposed ordinance as follows. See Exhibit A, 10 minutes. Member Hillary Orman.
Well, we've talked about this at length, so I don't know that I need to elaborate further. So I will make a motion to adopt the proposed ordinance as explained in Exhibit A, or as set forth in Exhibit A.
Okay, so I'll second the motion. So now we'll open it up for any generalized discussion amongst the members. Eric?
Thank you. Thank you all for being here and voicing your opinions. I oppose the draft ordinance banning the use of gas-powered leaf blowers. I believe the ordinance as drafted is overreaching and fails to recognize the burden that will be imposed upon many resident taxpayers who will see increased costs from the companies providing them with landscaping services. The proposed exceptions are minimally defined and leave much room for interpretation. For example, the terms emergency or safety purposes and storm cleanup are vague and subject to broad interpretation. The exception proposed for the Department of Public Works should instead be for use by town employees on public and/or town property. And institutional organizations with large non-residential acreage, including hospitals, schools, places of worship, cemeteries and graveyards, golf courses, and other athletic fields, should be exempted from any such proposed ordinance. With respect to violation of the ordinance, penalties, fines, and enforcement, I believe the enforcement of the ordinance will be difficult, as hiring sufficient personnel to police the ordinance may present certain challenges. I believe the ordinance will pit neighbor against neighbor and result in many calls to the New Canaan Police Department overtaxing their department. Town Council has received emails supporting this proposed ordinance from less than 2% of the town's residents. We have not heard from thousands of taxpayers, so perhaps it makes sense that the proposal goes to a referendum. Further, the predominant complaint has been about noise from gas-powered leaf blowers, and I believe a new GPLB ordinance is unnecessary if we were to amend and enforce the existing noise ordinance. We can do better, and we should hesitate in creating a new law that impacts 100% of our residents at the request of 2% of those residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Next, anybody else want to comment here? Mike?
Thank you, Eric, for your comments. They're thought-provoking. However, I have to disagree with you. This started in 2021, and that the time and the wrestling with it, and people and all its permutations it's taken, has given many people the opportunity to get involved. And you have to think in the, if you feel that it's only 2%, and that 2% is vastly in favor of a leaf blower and ordinance, and that the rest that are silent, you have to think the silence equals acquiescence. And if it should not equal that, already in our charter is the opportunity for 500 people or so to sign a petition, and we can have a referendum. However, I think people do want this. I think that we need to recognize that we're not emancipating slaves or abridging rights of the people. What we're doing is trying to make a better community and make a quieter community where people can enjoy their outdoor space. And I would like that we pass this. I'd like to see this passed. It's very, with all the back and forth on it, it's not a stringent thing. And I think people would like it.
Thank you, Mike.
I think Penny wanted to.
Penny and then Maria.
I'm going to have to compliment Eric for his commentary, because very similar comments coming from me as well. I've had a problem with the lauding of the number of people who have responded and in support of this ordinance. I've been on the council a long time, as everybody knows, and there have been issues that have come and gone that have generated an enormous amount of enthusiasm and response from the community. And what I have found is it becomes a movement, and that movement then gets a lot of steam, but it doesn't stop and take a minute to think about people who actually are on the other side of the issue. And when you're going to have an ordinance and that is enforceable by law, it should have something that really, really, really has got a lot of meat to it and can be enforced. And I don't know how this actually can be enforced. I live on 5 acres of property, about 3 of which are developed and need to be maintained. When my grass gets cut, it's all of 20 minutes to blow what other grass I want blown so that it doesn't go into my pond, doesn't go into other areas around my property. And 20 minutes is really not a whole long time to be inconvenienced, nor is it producing a whole lot of unhealthy air. I mean, this is 5 acres of air, which is a lot of oxygen and carbon monoxide exchange. And I just cannot imagine that there's enough pollution in the air that it's going to affect anybody. I think it's really, somebody has got to stand up for the people who are not writing letters and not phoning and not stopping us in the grocery store. And when we only have 2% who have responded, it's the other part of the population I think needs to be represented and will as well. And I will do that.
Okay, next, Maria.
I just want to say thank you to the committee, the ordinance committee, which I'm on. There was a lot of debating, going back and forth, revising, editing, thinking, sharing ideas, which was very powerful. I have to say, though, I can't support it because I think at best it's inconsistent. From reading some of the letters, well, first of all, I think it's going to have a significant impact on landscape companies. I know for myself, I would probably tell my landscape company, which with 2 working parents in the house, we need to hire them. I would say, don't blow my leaves. I'll do it myself. And I bet I won't be the only one. So with the exemption, I think we'll have an unintended consequence of leaf blowers going at all hours within the 7 to 7 noise ordinance. You know, and I also, based on the letters, I think a lot of people think it will be peaceful and quiet. And I don't think electric leaf blowers are completely silent. I can hear in my backyard a generator down the road, like the sound will carry. So I think that's a misconception that things will be quiet. You know, they are not as powerful. I think there may be cases where people are using electric leaf blowers for a longer period of time to do the same work that a gas-powered leaf blower could do in a shorter amount of time. People think it's better for the environment. I really don't think we could rule out batteries being good for the environment. They're toxic, you know, that's a problem. I think people, you know, have stressed the dust that gets kicked up. Electric leaf blowers are going to kick up stuff too. So the inconsistency is not allowing us to meet the goal that we think we're meeting. So it's one of those feel-good initiatives. It sounds good on paper. And to be honest, I think we can meet the goal of finding some peace in our neighborhoods through some noise ordinances, refining it a little bit. I think do it that way. But an ordinance that targets one piece of equipment, it doesn't make any sense. So I'm going to vote no.
All right, thank you, Maria. Janet.
I agree with Hillary, what she's been saying all along about perfect being the enemy of good. I mean, basically this comes down to health and wellness. And a lot of New Canaanites are angry because they can't go about their basic life without the constant drone of leaf blowers and the noise that comes at it. I mean, people are working from home nowadays. They can't get on a Zoom and listen to and do their work. And I get what everyone's saying about, you know, it's a, people have said it's un-American. What I think is un-American is not being able to enjoy your property in peace. And I liken it to some similar to smoking. It's like your body, your rights. But when you intrude on my rights to a peaceful environment, then that's why I draw the line. So I think this is a reasonable approach. And it's only a summertime ban. It's not a permanent ban. The only thing that I think we maybe should consider is maybe the 20 plus acres of, because that's a special animal. It is different. Gas powered leaf blowers are noisier. It's a different animal than other lawn equipment. So I do think this is necessary.
Okay, anyone else down here want to throw comments in, anything? All good down this way? Hillary, please.
Well, I want to thank the members of the community that have been steadfast and come out and supported the ordinance. Again, I've said this before, I would have appreciated to hear amendments to the noise ordinance. We did not receive any in the bylaws and ordinances committee. We didn't receive any specific proposal for that. There's a number of things that came up that
Actually, I'm on a call right now.
Everyone knows.
Anyway, I think we've gone back and forth that when we initially drafted this ordinance, it did have restrictions on electric leaf blowers. We decided to take that out to promote the use of electric leaf blowers. So I'm having a bit of whiplash with some of the arguments against it now, but I respect that. I've been sitting on this council for 4.5 years now, and I don't think I've received anywhere near the magnitude number of letters about any other issue. So I find that to be a bit of a red herring. And to say that, this like silent majority doesn't want this, I find that as specious as saying that they do. Like, we don't know. So what we do know is that we've heard from a significant number of people in this town on this particular issue that we haven't heard from others. So that's where I fall. I do want to thank the members of the community that have come out consistently and really stayed on this. And I hope we can pass it.
Christina.
Oh, Christina, hi.
Yeah.
Hi, I agree with Hillary. I'm disappointed that some of these comments weren't brought up before. But that said, I also disagree with the notion that if only a small percentage of the population responds, that then it's of no consequence or interest to the rest of the voters. For that reason, if I do a comparison and say someone just got elected only with 3% of the vote or 5% of the vote, are they any less of a representative? No. So it's inconsequential how many we've had, but Hillary's right. We had a tremendous amount of responses to the ordinance. Now, that said, I would be willing to cut it back and make it less of a town-wide, if that was an option that would get some buy-in from the rest of the commission. But it's, I think it's of a tremendous impact for the center of town. And if we were to only hone in on one area, that is really impactful, and we should do something about it. Like others have said, this is only a seasonal restriction, and yet there are still ways in which a homeowner can still work around it. So I think that we should give it a try. That's it.
Jennifer.
I wasn't going to comment because I'm sort of set with where I'm going to go, but just in response to Christina. So I'm agreeing with almost everything you're saying. As someone who lives in a 4-acre zone and has 2.5 acres, I wouldn't like to see it regionalized in town. And I also think I don't like the idea of creating different classes of citizens. So for those of us who live in 2.5 acres who would like to hear some reduction in the noise, it only seems fair that we could get that benefit as well as the people in town. So that's why I'm not for that distinction of the size of the lots or where in town you are.
Okay, anyone else want to comment on this?
I also hope that, I think right now we do have neighbor versus neighbor. I think we really do. And I don't think that this is going to increase that. I'm imploring the citizens of and the residents of New Canaan to try to be neighborly and work on this. Like I've said, I have a great amount of faith that the majority of people in town will comply with this. And I would hope that it would encourage that conversation more and not less. But right now, I do think there's a significant amount of tension. So again, I would implore everyone to just try and be good neighbors. Talk to your neighbor about this new ordinance if it passes. You know, try to work it out without calling the police on your next door neighbor if you think they're using a gas powered leaf blower.
I'm going to quickly agree with that. Show your neighbors some grace on this. That's all. If it passes.
Maria.
I just have to say, you know, I'm hearing this. I think it will encourage single family homeowners to be out there using their whatever equipment they have, leaf blowers, at hours that we would rather prefer they weren't happening, because the regulation specifies that. It's not that they'll be, you know, violating the
Ordinance still applies. This does not supersede an existing noise ordinance.
right. So they'll be blowing their leaves until 7 o'clock at night, where now maybe it wouldn't happen, would happen during the day. I'm just saying, I don't think it's
honestly
meeting
don't
the
think
goal.
somebody is spending their summer days sitting out on their lawn from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying this is not meeting the goal of what it's intended to do. And that's
Hold
that.
on, guys. We have to do it one at a time. Okay. I get.
But I think
Just
I've
one.
said what I need to say.
Okay. Anybody else want to apply? I'm gonna make a comment. We got to get to the vote. We have other things to do here tonight. Okay. So, first of all, the work done by Hillary and the committee, I think, was absolutely phenomenal. You know, Hillary's an attorney and had a really wonderful career in law. So there really is no better person to me that's handling, you know, kind of captaining the ship on that. Really, it's tough work legally, number one. Number two, just diplomatically trying to balance a lot of different, you know, competing interests, a lot of passion. So it's a tough project, not just from, you know, balancing interests of the public, but also on the town council itself, because, you know, we do all respect each other. It does get heated at times, but we certainly are colleagues, and we do respect each other's input and concerns. Doesn't mean we agree with them. Doesn't mean we'll have to love each other all the time. So, but again, as far as the process is concerned, it's beyond a stellar process that Hillary conducted along with everyone else on bylaws and ordinance. I've tracked this discussion very closely. You know, when it started out, I wasn't so sure, you know, which way it really should go, because I heard competing arguments, and a lot of it makes sense to me, quite honestly, on both sides. One of the things, though, that I would like to have seen, only before I say that, the other thing about the town council is this is representative government, right? There's over 20,000 people in this town. We are elected to represent all of them. Not everyone speaks to us all of the time in a public session where everyone else is aware of what we're being told, meaning coming in and talking to us when we have public comment. But we are responsible to the people, and we have to be react to what they do bring to us. And a significant component of people did bring to us a significant issue in their lives. And we are obligated to take it up, look at it, ruminate over it, weigh it, analyze it, and debate it. And sometimes the decision is, comes out in a way that, you may like or you may not like. But the process is extraordinarily sound here. And I want to make sure everyone is clear on that. So with that said, on the responsiveness piece, I think we've checked that box. My concern with this moving forward, and the one thing I didn't see was, our current noise ordinance talks about a 45 decibel range, right? And the stuff that I've seen about the decibel range of an electric blower is like high 50s and low 60s.
So, the empirical data to me would have been like, hey, here's, a whole bunch of complaints. The noise ordinance isn't effective. And it's not about amending the noise ordinance. This needed to be done. This proposed ordinance needed to be drafted. I'm just looking at the source of the complaints and, was there something defective somewhere else? My opinion, I don't know if it really was. So that's where I have some trouble here. Not with how it's drafted. I think it's drafted absolutely how it should be drafted. There's just a separate issue that's been knocking around in my mind. And, I look at it from an attorney's point of view. I say, well, what's the prejudice here that you had with the noise ordinance failing the people? Well, how many complaints to the police department were made because they're the enforcing authority? And I didn't see anyone come forward saying, I've been complaining to the police. They haven't done anything. That's why we need this, obviously very well crafted ordinance. That's where there's another piece of this that's falling short for me on the empirical data. 45 decibels it's strict. And I think in 2006, when the town folk here looked at it, they thought that was, must have been a very tight standard, but I guess the conventional leaf blowers, and everyone can look it up, it's around like I said, the high 50s. So I already think that there's just a problem on the data that was provided. So that's where I'm really hung up on this ordinance. Whether it'll be a referendum, yeah, I can understand that point as well. And I don't want to get too far into the discussion about, is this a true representative sample of what the town wants? I just have a problem on, the ordinance on the noise side of it. I just didn't see a stack of papers saying it's completely ineffective. And I personally would have liked to have seen that. So with that said, those are my comments. Let's get to the vote. The people are entitled to get this on. So.
Sure. So any further comments? Okay. All in favor of adopting the proposed ordinance as set forth in Exhibit A?
No, the motion's been seconded. So so raise your hands if in favor. Raise your hand. All right. So take the roll.
Okay, take the roll. Janet Fonce, I say yes. Lena Lee? Yes. Mike Morrow?
No.
Maria Naughton?
No.
Tim Norton?
Yes.
Larry Armand?
Yes.
Mike Rogers?
Yes.
Christina Ross?
Yes.
Heather Russell?
Yes.
Herb Toonen?
No.
Penny Young?
No.
Jennifer Zonas?
Yes.
All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 7 yeses, 5 nos. And the motion passes.
Motion carries. Very good. Okay. All right.
I think it might be
Oh, that's all right. So mistakes. No, don't be sorry. Let's get it right.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Are you counting yourself?
Should be 8. Yeah. Lena Lee. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 7. 1, 2.
4 no's.
Maybe take it again.
Wait, I had 5. I have Mike said no.
5 no's.
Maria's no. Oh, wait, sorry. That's right. It is 8 yeses. 4 no's. 8 to 4.
Okay,
I
the motion
apologize.
passed, for the record, the motion passed 8-4.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks, everybody.
thank you.
Yeah.
All right, everyone, let's move on to agenda item number 8, independent accounting firm. In accordance with the Audit Committee Ordinance 62-5B, the members of the Audit Committee, acting as an ad hoc committee along with First Selectman and the Chairman of the Town Council, recommend to the Town Council the approval of the engagement of PKF O'Connor Davies as the Town of New Canaan's independent accounting firm to include the annual audit for the year ended June 30, 2026. The base fee for the audit services is $117,950.
Thanks, everybody.
Additional fees for services beyond the annual audit scope will be negotiated separately. 5 minutes, Ann Kelly, let's.
Good evening. So I, based on some of the comments that have been made to date, I just want to make sure tonight's meeting, I want to make sure I clarify the difference of what's being asked tonight. So we're not
Please, thank you.
Yeah, we're not asking to appoint PKF as our auditor. They are under contract, as Robin Fryer had mentioned. The contract went into effect probably May of 2024 for 3 years. So we are now coming up to the fiscal year 26 audit. They've done 24, 25. This is the year 3 of that contract that we are under with them. What is in front of you now is a normal accounting process or audit process. Every year, an audit firm will put an engagement letter out to the governing body to be signed. And it delineates the scope, the responsibilities, basically what's going to happen in this audit for this particular year. The numbers that are quoted in there as the price for the year are the numbers that they put in their bid back in 2024. So we verified that those numbers are still the same. They gave the 3-year cost for each 24, 25, and 26 in that cost example in 2024. And it is the same as what they're asking for this year, which is appropriate. So this letter is just to let us move forward and the audit firm to move forward with the engagement of just the fiscal year 26 audit. My apologies. So I'd open up for any questions.
Okay, any questions?
I'm just curious.
Yeah, Janet.
Why do we have to approve this if this was already in the contract?
It's an accounting process every year that they have to put it, we have to sign an engagement letter with them for the terms of this particular audit each year. What the scope, responsibility. So each year we have to have have a signed engagement letter with the audit firm. Because things could change. It has not changed, but different things could change from year to year, which would change the engagement, but it hasn't for us.
Okay, thank you.
Kim.
Yes,
Christina.
thanks, Ann. I was curious to know if the audit committee has reviewed the terms and if they differ from the terms from 2024, if there's any, if we were to look at the 2 engagement letters, are they exactly the same? And again, why hasn't the audit committee had a chance to review the terms of this engagement?
It typically did not go in front of the audit committee because it was it's an engagement letter, not the contract and re-upping the audit firm. It's for the town council to sign that engagement letter to let the audit firm move forward. So this has been our typical process. If it's something we want to change, that's something we can discuss.
And the second part of my question is the letter different? Are the terms of this engagement letter different from the last audit?
No, they're not different. We'll have different GASB rules, but not different terms.
So it's exactly the same letter?
Yes.
Thank you.
Christina.
When I read this item 8, it says the members of the audit committee acting as the ad hoc committee, along with the first selectman and the chairman of the town council, recommend to the town council the approval of the engagement letter. Since the audit committee has not had a vote on it or has been presented to them, I think that this slightly misrepresents who's supporting this.
Actually, I'm sorry I didn't catch that earlier. That top language on this is the language which was related to the bid for the bid contract. This is not because the ad hoc committee, the first selectman, the chairman of the town council, that was all related to the bid. That has nothing to do with the annual engagement letter. So the annual engagement letter is solely the town council's responsibility on signing that, the chairman of the town council, if it's approved. So the top language of that is not related to the engagement letter. It would be related to any bid or contract, and that's what it was 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago.
Well, but it says recommend to the town council the approval of the engagement of O'Connor Davis as the town New Canaan's independent accounting firm to include the annual audit for the year ending in June 30, 2026. Words mean something, and this is very misleading. And for that reason, I vote no.
You could table that one and you could add it on as a separate agenda item, as in the approval of the engagement letter for the fiscal year 26 audit. And that would be simple.
Oh, but why would this not have gone to the audit committee for their consideration and support?
Because it's considered the engagement letter of the audit, not the contract of the audit. So the
Well,
audit.
why would the audit committee be excluded from anything to do with the audit?
Well, as I said, that hasn't been our process. So if it's something where we want the audit committee to review an engagement letter each year, that's something we can put in as a process every year, but that has not been the process.
I don't ever recall the audit committee not being involved with it, so I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay, there's any other questions on this? So we're clear. This is the contract with PKF went into effect in 24 as a result of a bid it out process.
Correct.
The only thing we're approving here is a standardized form engagement letter that occurs every year to essentially frame out the upcoming year audit. And as confirmed by the CFO, there are no changes between the letter we approved last year and the letter that's before us, okay? So,
And just, Mike, if I could just add another thing to it, what audit firms do this, and they do it in advance by a timeline, because the state statute says we have to get it approved and we have to have it filed up with the state by June 1st. So this is a requirement we do every year with an engagement letter, that once it's approved, we then file it with the state.
got it. Oh, Christina, yeah.
But that does not preclude us from presenting it to the audit committee in time for us to vote following the recommendation of the audit committee.
And as I said, if that was our process, we would have followed that normal process, and we can change that process going forward.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, Christina, I hear what you're saying. We could certainly say, hey, give it to us a little earlier. I'm fine. I mean, I'm going to vote yes, obviously, but I hear you. We could always, like I said, with everything, we can always look at our processes and look to improve where reasonable. Kim.
I mean, I would like some more information and look at the last engagement letter and see how it compares to this engagement letter. And when you said it's not part of the process, I'm not sure how many years that goes back, but my understanding is the audit committee has looked at everything to do with an audit. It's basically their raison d'etre, why they exist. And I feel like out of respect to those volunteers that spend a lot of time on this, that we should have the courtesy of showing them the audit, and that we as town council members, as a point of information, should be able to review, get the last scope and see how it compares to this year. So I will also be voting no. I would change my vote if we could postpone this for more information, and we're meeting next Tuesday night. I don't know if this could be added, but I would just like to see the last scope and hear the audit committee's opinion on the engagement letter.
All right, Hillary, you want to?
So I was going to make a motion that we approve the engagement letter with PKF O'Connor Davies to include the annual audit for the year ended June 30th, 2026, and the base fee for audit services of $117,950. Additional fee for services beyond the annual audit scope to be negotiated separately.
Penny, did you second that?
I will.
Yes.
Oh.
Penny seconded
I
that.
think our discussion got curtailed by the motion.
No, I looked and I asked if anybody had.
Well, I
Or
don't
did
know
somebody-
if anyone has any other comments.
Well, hold on. Let's just, like we still have to follow our process. Once
Yeah.
the motion is on the floor, and we can
Got it.
have any.
We probably should have.
We just
discussed
needed to
before.
get moving on
Got
this.
it.
So second, all right. Further discussion on this motion.
May
Eric
I
second.
did.
Eric
seconded.
Oh.
Penny
Penny did.
The motion. The motion is now up for.
Eric seconds the second.
I forfeit.
Perfect. Fourth. Okay. The motion is up for additional discussion. Maria, then Kim.
I just feel like the language is wrong here. I know what you said is right, but I just don't have it in front of me. Can we make a motion to strike what's on number 8 and say as amended by what Hillary just said?
The only thing I would say about that, Maria, is believe it or not, because we didn't do it the normal way, which is I would have said, let's make a motion to do the following. I just said, here's what's on the agenda. I read it, and then Christina accurately pointed out it's actually not accurate. And Hillary corrected, say, this is what our motion will be. So it's not like we're approving this number 8 agenda item as formulated is not the motion that was just made.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's anything there's no
I don't think we're wedded to the.
or making a motion to amend the agenda. I mean, it's like a.
Can I just ask a question to clarify something here?
Oh.
It's not like we can change it audit firms at this point. It's not like we can get somebody in here from outside to do an audit for us now at this point, if we want to get this done. So isn't it immaterial if it's written wrong or right, that, okay, that needs to be corrected in the minutes, but really we have to kind of approve it, I would think, right?
Well, we just heard earlier that if we don't correct it now, it goes into the minutes and gets approved the wrong way. So I feel like this is just, I just want to make sure the language reflects.
And Hillary made the motion to change the language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or that, with
The amended language.
Yes, so it's,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, so
May
Christina,
I just have one last comment. It says the base fee for the audit service is 117,950. Additional fees for services beyond the annual audit scope will be negotiated separately. The problem that I have with that sentence is that the CFO should really be reporting to the audit committee, and the audit committee should decide what beyond the annual audit scope will be. So this has so many problems. It's like, who's leading who?
Christina, usually when the audit firms put that in there, because I've been doing this for over 20 years, that statement typically means that if the auditors have to do year-end entries and closing entries because the town is not able to do that, that costs more fees. And that's when they will give us, they'll give us negotiated fees because we don't have our books in the shape that they should be in. And that happens a lot in towns. So they put that sentence in there in case they actually have to do the entries that we should have done.
I understand that, but
Yep.
the audit committee should not have been left out of this process. I don't care if there was a processes. I'm baffled by the processes. I don't think I've ever seen the processes you're referring to, with all due respect, where the audit committee would be excluded.
Well, if you look at the audit committee's meetings, their meetings have never coincided with us getting the letter and then it getting to one of their meetings to get on the town council. It's always gotten to us and goes straight to the town council. That's what I'm saying. That's where the process has been. We do send them a copy of it, but we send it to the town council. We can talk about changing that process. That's not an issue.
Okay, when will we be getting the audited financials for this past fiscal year? Is that in July or June? or-
The audit was done and filed December of 25.
And when do we get a copy?
I'm not sure so you're telling me you never got a copy from that audit?
Not that I can recall.
Okay, I'll have to look into that. I'll definitely look into that because I know we sent out copies and we sent out hard copies, but I'll follow through with that.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
that was definitely filed on time, December of 25.
Okay, great, thanks.
Jim and then Deanna.
Okay, so from a technical standpoint, the agenda that was published, which is part of public notice, says that the audit committee, were part of this motion. So technically, I think even if we change the motion, I think the public notice is incorrect if we're going to change the motion. But I mean, it's a 14-page document. So with all due respect to Mike, I think, Mike, you said, is it really going to change? But I mean, I think we're out of our depth to look at the scope of the audit and to approve something unless this is someone's field. So we talked about in the CRC approving people that are experts in their field and know a lot about what they're dealing with. So I don't think that we're the experts on the scope of this audit to approve it just because we're being asked to. So I think, and we need more information. I think we need the audit committee to weigh in on it. And I think we need to see a red line version of this compared to the audit from last year. And if it has changed in any material way. And if it hasn't, then we know. But I mean, we're kind of going in circles. So thank you.
Deanna, please.
So I would just say this is a regularly scheduled meeting. And so if you want to change the language on a regularly scheduled meeting in the meeting, you have every capability of doing that. So, I think it's a good idea to edit the language of the motion. And so that's that. And then the terms of the engagement letter have been on your tablets for the week or more. I don't know when they went on there, but the 16 pages with the breakdown of all the details of the engagement letter have been available for all, and they're out on the public packet. So anyone has the ability to review the terms of the engagement letter.
Thank you. Christina.
I respect what the first selectman just stated, but being on the tablet did not notify us that the audit committee had or had not reviewed it. I'm going by what's in the agenda and it's very misleading.
Okay, Jennifer. Nothing? Okay.
Yeah, I get.
Oh, Eric.
I think we could change the language for the motion. I think what we're being asked to do is approve an engagement which is exactly what we did a year ago. And the engagement letter is essentially exactly the same as it was a year ago, correct, Ann?
Yes.
So I don't know why we're all of a sudden worrying about whether the audit committee has jumped in this year to review something that we approved last year and the year before and are asked to approve now this year. So I just think there's a lot of going in circles here that's completely unnecessary. And the fact that it was on our tablets means we had access to it. We could have read it. If you didn't read it and had questions about it, that's not anybody else's fault.
Thank you, Eric. Okay, so not to prolong this because this is taking longer than it really needs to, but I want to be crystal clear on something. When I said let's go to agenda item number 8, all I did was read this. This wasn't cast or formulated as a motion. The first time a motion came on to the floor was when Hillary raised it, and her formulation was absolutely appropriate. So there's no need to amend anything. We're not, what you're talking about is amending the language of the agenda, which to me, unless you all are telling us, at least through a majority vote, somehow we need to do because there's some prejudice here that's material, I don't see any reason to waste time amending the formulation of the agenda. We have a properly formulated motion on the table. We've now discussed this motion. We've had the opportunity to talk to the CFO, ask the questions we wanted. The answers were given that were unacceptable. I totally get that. We had the first selectman come up and give us some additional information. I think I'm prepared to vote on the motion that's on the floor. If anyone disagrees that that motion is wrong or improper, let's have that discussion. Other than that, let's get this vote on because we have another thing to get to this evening.
Can I have
Okay.
a clarification as to who's describing the services beyond the annual audit scope to the accountants?
The audit firm, it said, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you had said it's something that the audit firm includes in their engagement letter to cover all the bases, for lack of a better word.
Correct. In case the
stuff
books
that's
aren't where they should be, the audit firm goes in and does the entries for you, and that's an extra cost for us.
Has that ever happened in New Canaan, or since you've been here? Have you
We
ever had that
did bring
experience?
the cost down one of the years because the first year myself and the comptroller came in, we took over a lot of the entries that the audit firm was doing for us.
Great. So we've not had a situation since you've been in your job where they have had to take on those additional services and incur additional fees?
No, not for the town.
Kim, anything else?
We repeat the motion, please, so that I can be clear on what we're voting on?
Okay. Sure. Okay, the motion is to approve the engagement letter from PKF O'Connor Davies, the Town of New Canaan's independent auditing firm, to include the annual audit for the year ended June 30th, 2026, the base fee for those services of $117,950 with additional fees for services beyond the annual audit scope to be negotiated.
Well done. Okay.
Thank you.
Penny will second the motion. Everyone clear on that motion?
Yep.
Everyone okay with it?
Mm-hmm.
Vote. All in favor? All right.
Wait, did roll
We need a
call?
roll call.
Okay,
That's the
here
process.
we go.
It's all good. All good.
All
Let's
right.
go.
Janet Fonts, I say yes. Lena Lee. Mike Morrow.
Yes.
Maria Naughton.
Yes.
Kimberly Norton.
No.
Hillary Ormond.
Yes.
Mike Rogers.
Yes.
Christina Ross.
No.
No. Heather Russell.
Yes.
Eric Tunham.
Yes.
Penny Young.
Yes.
Jennifer Zonas.
Yes.
We have 2 noes and 10 yeses.
Okay. Motion carries 10-2. Yes?
Thank you.
All right. Let's move it along. Finally.
Thank you, Anne.
Agenda item number 9, charter discussion. No, actually, we're going to cut it down. General discussion regarding proposed charter revision commission, recommended changes to the charter, 20 minutes. Mike Morrow. Just got to go to the bathroom. Okay. So we met last week. Kathleen Corbett gave a really fantastic overall summary view of two things. one, the process, and two, the substance. We've all had, what was that, last week?
That
It was last Thursday?
the 4th. Yeah, it was a Monday.
Okay, so we've had a little over a week now since that meeting, but we've had access to the recommendations for from that previous Friday. My understanding, the caucuses of respective caucuses have met, had, I guess, their initial discussion. That's my characterization of initial. I know on my side it was an initial caucus on our end to talk about the report and the recommendations. I thought, I can't disclose the discussions, but they were really, honestly, I really appreciated all of the well-meaning and good faith discussion that we had. So I guess the purpose of right now, and as we all know, we have this discussion tonight. We have a special meeting next week to discuss, and then we have another special meeting that's set up for June 10th or something,
Yeah.
June 10th. Then we have a regular meeting, and we have some deadlines to get any further input to the CRC, so then they can go on ahead and have their discussions and conclude their work. So with that said, we've all, both caucus-wise and independently, have had the opportunity to ponder these recommendations. And I would, we can have, I think it's important for the public just to see, I think right now at this initial touch point, what type of concerns, are most of them okay? And there's a couple that we really want to zero in on right now to kind of put the CRC on notice. Is everything puppy tails and sunshine? We have nothing to talk about, or is everything a car wreck and we need to talk about everything? So my point in being a little comical is, can we narrow the discussion down to, hey, here's a couple of the hot topics that I meaning generally I, would like to talk a little bit more about for the public consumption, and kind of focus, on that for right now, because maybe if there's some generalized agreement on some of these other issues, we can, just kind of push those off, or we can handle it in the reverse. I mean, we're all a panel of equals here. Do you want to say, hey, here are the ones we seem to not have any issue with, remove those and talk about the bigger ones? So I'm open for, I want to manage the discussion, but my preference is just to say, hey, what are the couple of big things? Is it, converting some appointeds to popular vote? Is the requirement for being a taxpayer in town, it has to qualify you to be appointed. Is that a bigger one? So I think maybe, those are my two right now, just in terms of looking at it. So maybe go down the line to say who's got what issues are biggest in their mind. But Maria.
I just want to say something before we start that. I think all of us really appreciate all the work that went into this process. And I just hope any discussion or debate or disagreement with the recommendations doesn't come off as negative. And I think this is all like the POCD, when we saw an area, we're all coming from our own perspective, our own input and feedback from other people. So I hope we can take that and, keep the discussion in that spirit, that we're here to share thoughts on things, and it's absolutely no criticism on anyone or any process. So I think that's important to say before we start sharing.
Yeah, Maria, that's awesome. I'm actually happy you said that. 100%. So, so I'm prepared to go the way I was thinking, but if you think it stinks, then tell me. If not, then. But I really am actually quite interested for all of you, because I respect everyone's opinions. What are your top issues? And if you say, hey, here are my top ones, you say, here's what I'm thinking. I'd like to look at this a little further and have a discussion. You guys are okay with that, Jennifer?
Yeah, and I kind of like what you added in there. Like, if through the process, like, there becomes some consensus. It's kind of nice to think going forward, like, oh, here's something where we're already at. If that was accomplished in this period of time, that would be a great bonus.
Yeah, awesome. So sounds like maybe you guys want to go that way. If you're okay with it, I have to put you on your spot because that's why you got yourself elected. So Mike, anything in particular stands out just for warranting further interest discussion?
For change.
No, Penny. Inspired by Crucible.
It's a joke. It's a joke.
But no, you guys did a great job and made it very palatable and easy to read and understandable. Thank you. What struck me going through the packet was how much in there was consensus. There wasn't, things were 10-2, 11-0, or by consensus. There was only a few things that came out that were close, or, so, and they were the P&Z being elected or appointed, and the term limits. And I guess, that really caught my eye, 6-5 on the P&Z. And that was because when you start talking about it to people and you hear the arguments on both sides, you realize that there's a lot of good arguments for being elected and a lot of good arguments for being appointed. And whenever you start feeling that way, you do start feeling also that maybe the people of the town need to weigh in on something like that. And when I saw 6-5 on that one, I really felt strongly that if we're going to not put it on the ballot, that it needs a much bigger consensus, not even 7-4. It's got to be 8-3, 10-2, 10-1, or something like that, because what we're doing affects every single person in this town. When you get into planning and zoning, and I think these guys are doing a great job. But there's been some big things. We have the St. Luke's people where people are very upset. We've got the CARP thing, and then so you're just a little uncomfortable saying that not giving the people a chance who have to live with these things the chance to weigh in on it. And so I guess that's one thing I'd like you to revisit. And there's one thing that didn't come out in your discussions that I would like you guys to think about a little bit. So many of these committees are appointed. You've got, this committee, where the council here is elected, whereas a diversity of age, of how long some of these people have been in the town. There's a lot of women on this group. I think that the diversity, I think elections actually do help diversity. And here we are going back and forth about affordable housing. There's nobody who lives in Mill Street or the CARP affordable apartments or Riverwalk. I would like to make a plug for diversity, and I think elections help there. Other than that, I really was like, everything else was pretty much consensus except the 12-year term limits, and I think flow through is good. So I had no problem with that. Thank you.
Eric?
My turn.
Now we're going to skip you.
It's funny, we just passed an ordinance based on 2% of the town, but I'll let that slide. I want to thank you all for your work, and I watched.
To do with anything. You're never going to listen.
It happened. It passed. I'm done. Really, thank you for your effort. I watched a lot of your meetings, and I know a lot of them went long, and all your resumes spoke to your qualifications, and the fact that you put in as much time to this process as you did was admirable. And I know a lot of you have served in a lot of different capacities for this town. And I've served for 2.5 years on town council, and I know how much time that takes. And so thank you. Thank you for all your effort. I don't have anything that I would like to send back to you. I think you deliberated appropriately. The closeness of a vote, it may be an arbitrary thing. Should there be a 10-1 vote or 11-1 or 8-3 or 7-4 or 6-5? The fact is that a majority of you voted on every issue, and all those issues all passed or failed based on majority rule, which is democracy. So I appreciate your process. I think your process has been complete. And I thank you for your service and appreciate the 5 items that you recommended go on the ballot. And that's how I would like us to move forward. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks again for all the work and listening, for inviting us in to speak on different issues. I am kind of with Mike on this, on those close votes. I feel like maybe it's worth taking another look at them. Originally, my first thought when I heard about planning and zoning possibly being considered for an elected position, I thought, no way, I don't want that. I like it. I think it's fine the way it is now. But having talked to other people, and hearing just the concept that having an election allows everyone kind of to have a say in who's in that role, and also a say in who doesn't get reelected. It might be worth more study. If all the towns around us are elected, I do think it's worth looking at, even though it's, I get the majority, you came to a vote, it was majority, but it's so close. And, that's the one thing that I might recommend relooking at and reconsidering. And putting it on the ballot it's a perfect time. I mean, the ballot's going out, we have things going on it, and that seems to be an issue that's, close and maybe contentious. Give people a say. That's all I have to say.
Yeah. Having sat on the previous commission, I can respect every minute and every bit of energy and effort and clear thinking that you've put into this. And I say, thank you, thank you, thank you. It is it's a task that fortunately we only do every 10 years. But we really don't even have to do it every 10 years. It's recommended we do it in 10 years. And as you know, I was one of the ones that really fought to make sure that we did have a charter revision commission, because I think it's a healthy exercise to step back and look at who you are. Times change over the years, and we want to make sure that our government is operating as efficiently and effectively as we possibly can. And if there are changes that have occurred in the past decade, you've picked up on them and moving forward. So I thank you for being insightful and critical thinking, and come up with some really healthy recommendations. I'm a little concerned about 2 things. One is term limits. With elected individuals, I think term limits take care of itself through an election. If the public is not at all comfortable with what someone is doing, I'm probably an example of that, since I've been elected a number of times. And so I do like, not having to, have term limits. But on appointed bodies, I think someone's participation on a board committee actually is demonstrated by their own behaviors. And I think it becomes pretty obvious in the workings of that body by other members on the committee, and particularly the leadership. And then ultimately the leadership as you go up the line to the selectmen, as to whether or not an individual is really putting forth the amount of energy and effort and critical thinking that is healthy for the town. And it can take care of itself consideration of not reappointing someone. I'm not so sure that the public is as attentive to what each individual does on a board of commission as they are the body of work that comes out of that group. So I'm not so sure that they really are educated enough thinkers to be able to say an individual should or shouldn't be serving on a committee. And we're going to lose a ton of people who have really been enormous contributors to the workings of our town. And I really would hate to lose them. The head of the Board of Finance, for one. I mean, it's just stellar individual and operates his responsibilities with the most objective and intelligent and team cohesion that is a credit to him and the body that he leads. So I have a little bit of concern with that. I think there's also a possibility, and when you think of other towns having elected planning and zoning commissions, even though they have them, I think you need to really study, if you're going to go back and do this, how effective has it been? Talk to other members in that government, people who have worked with them, projects that have been affected by decisions coming out of planning and zoning as to whether or not there's any inkling of outside influence. I can see where a builder perhaps would have extra interest in a project going forward or not going forward. When election time comes, have these other communities experienced contributions to candidates? So therefore you're really getting, maybe the nasty side of politics engaged. And I think you got to be really careful that we're not setting ourselves up for that. And in some of the like on planning and zoning, a number of the people who sit on that commission really have very special skills, little and knowledge bases that you wouldn't necessarily have the public be able to judge whether or not it's an important skill to have or not. So those are my concerns, and I'll leave you with, again, thank you for all of your work. I've previewed all of them. I've sat in a number and contributed, and you did a great job.
Go ahead, Janet.
Oh, amazing work. I agree with everyone who spoke ahead of me. And I was particularly impressed with how much outreach you did to the public with the surveys and with the, having all the meetings open, the public library. If people weren't paying attention, that was their fault. The one thing that keeps me thinking is the appointed versus elected for P&Z. At first I was like, absolutely keep it appointed. But you guys are kind of like, I'm going back and forth about that because the vote was close. I do think that's important. I do worry, though, that the level of expertise, as Penny said, you may not necessarily get if it's elected. And I also worry about getting people to run. That's an issue as well. So that's my only thought.
I echo everybody's thanks. Just to quickly look at what your recommendations have been, and then maybe an additional one that I'd like you to consider. Term limits, I'm hesitant about too, for all the reasons Penny said. I think that there could be a brain drain. And I think that, I worry about that. With the second recommendation, such legislative action, this is about approval for changes to town-owned real property. My only concern is the language is that the last sentence could be construed as requiring a public referendum on any of those change of uses. And so I wonder if there's some editing, just some massaging of the language that can be done so that it's clear that, like all other actions by town council with respect to budget decisions or ordinances, that those can come up for referendum, but it's not required. So that was just one tiny little nit on that one. I agree with number 3 to require confirmation by town council of appointments to planning and zoning. I think that's an elegant solution to what might be a concern. I think switching from appointed to elected, where for me, I haven't necessarily seen what problem that's trying to solve and how making that extreme of a change solves it. And so I think this is a nice way to address some concerns, where there would be just an extra layer of approval. I'm fine with adding 3 alternate members to the ethics board. I think that's a great idea. I'm shocked that they don't have alternates. So I think that that's necessary. And then obviously the sort of technical changes that need to be done, I agree with. An additional point is that I really would like I would recommend that we revisit the question whether Board of Finance members have to be property owners. I think renters, as long as you can prove that you're a resident here and you can vote here, I think you should be allowed to be on the Board of Finance. So many people have interesting ways of buying their homes these days too, under LLCs and other instruments, trust accounts, things like that. So, and renters, I think, have a stake in this town. It seems a bit antiquated to me that we would require property ownership to serve on the Board of Finance. So that is something I would revisit. And the last thing I just want to say is regarding comments that Mr. Abramowitz made and that Angela Jameson followed up on. I'm hard pressed to think of 2 people in this town besides Angela and her husband, John Chris, who are more hardworking and more ethical than the 2 of them are. And so I just wanted to go on the record to say, I don't believe there was any conflict of interest here. Proper legal opinion was given about participation in the votes. Had she not voted or had she recused herself, it would have been a tie, which to me means a motion fails anyway. So, but I really wanted to go on. I know the 2 of them very well, and I respect them tremendously. And I just wanted to thank you for your service to this town. And I don't see any like benefit that, I don't know. This is not what this town does. This town runs on volunteers, and you guys are the perfect example of that because of how much time you dedicated to this and how much energy. And everybody who serves on a board or commission here that isn't paid spends a tremendous amount of time and energy on that. And I hate to think that we're undercutting it for some reason. And so I just wanted to say that. Thank you, Angela, and thanks to your husband for all of his service on planning and zoning. He's super considerate. And now every time I buy a plant, I ask myself if it's native in honor of John
That's
Chris.
awesome. All right, thank you. Kim?
Yeah. Okay, I want to reiterate my thanks to the commission as I did the last time. I did follow a lot of your meetings and you put a lot of time into it, so I really appreciate that. I'm going to make my comments simple. I'm interested in exploring more. I'm calling them the 3 Ps: planning and zoning, preservation, and parking. So I do see the land use outcomes that we're going through now in the public engagement as being a potential or a weakness that we could maybe try to solve for. There's a comment on page 15 about looking into strengthening our preservation efforts. So I'm interested to look at the charter again to see if there's anything we need to do to strengthen that. And then I think the parking commission is in the parking, what's gone on in town is a weakness that we need to solve for. So when I look at the charter revision recommendations, 1 through 5, and I see 1 about term limits, I'm wondering if we did solve for perhaps deciding to elect planning and zoning, if that wouldn't be necessary. And then number 3 wouldn't be necessary because we wouldn't need to confirm planning and zoning because they would perhaps be elected. And one of the things that really caught my eye was a study, a report that I shared with everyone on town council about history of planning and zoning, letter that was submitted by planning and zoning, their opinion, and then all the other towns in Fairfield County, that 17 other towns have elected planning and zoning boards and 6 do not. And the cohort that we're with are very large towns, and all of them are cities. And if you consider Greenwich a city, that would be all of the other towns or cities. So you got Norwalk, Bridgeport, Stanford, Greenwich, Danbury, and New Canaan appoint planning and zoning. And then the 17 other towns in Fairfield County do not. They all elect. So, and I think it was 2024, the town council reviewed the plan of conservation and development. And we worked really hard to review the document, come up with suggestions. And I understand this is part of the process, but the suggestions were not included in the POCD. And so that, you know, concerns me in terms of if we are an elected board and planning and zoning is an appointed board, how does the public have a voice in land use decisions? And I think we see that percolating all over town in terms of people being dissatisfied with land use decisions. How do they get made? Where's the transparency? And then where does the public engage? So my 3 Ps, again, you know what they are, and that's what I'm going to be focused on. So thank you.
Jennifer.
First of all, I'm going to thank you and pile on with the praise for the tremendous effort from, I was watching everything on Zoom. I came to a few of the meetings, but I also have to say, especially for me, like to receive usually a 75-page document, I'm usually like, oh, how am I get through this? This was so clear and easy to follow. And then to help me, you know, formulate my edits and opinions. So I'm so grateful. I'm so impressed with the work you've done. And a little addendum, I'm so impressed with you staying here till almost 10 o'clock tonight to wait for these comments. So thank you for your tremendous effort and contributions to the town. Extraordinary. I'll try to be brief. By and large, I am, you know, in agreement about the term limits. I just was curious, you know, I come back to a phrase that Hillary brings up, you know, what problem are we solving for? Are there a lot of current, you know, board and commission members who are coming close to that or have exceeded 12? Is it okay? So to just, but anyways, I'm coming back to you to sort of, you can think about that, but in general, you know, I can get on board with that. I'm in agreement of 2. I'm not going to read the whole, but the approval for changes of town-owned real property. And I completely agree with Hillary. When I was reading it, I would change the is subject to may be subject, because it seemed like it was you know, an absolute requirement. So please can take that under consideration. I am inclined for several reasons to keep the P&Z appointed and not elected. I'm comfortable with a 6 to 5 because it, you know, a vote is, you know, we have close votes, we have less close votes. So I'm comfortable with that. And I do worry greatly at every level in our country and government right now. Money flows in to elections. You can't help by that. Outside groups, PACs. In Connecticut, we have developers' interests. We have, on the progressive side of things, you know, desegregate Connecticut interests. We could really think about what problem we are trying to solve for. I think a word that came up a lot was accountability. I feel comfortable with this change with 3 by having us have a role in approving those appointments. I hope you would feel that was a way to address accountability. Alternate to the ethics boards, excellent idea. And the catch-all number 5, excellent. And I just wanted to say that I personally, you guys did not vote in favor to amend having the requirement that to be on the Board of Finance, you would change it that all electors. You want to keep it as just property owners. One thing that came up, I was like mulling this over, kind of lying in bed, talking to my husband about it, and he brought up, he's a lawyer, but
many people we know in this town happen to have like their houses are in trusts or in LLCs. And so I feel like it disenfranchises a lot of great people who could be on Board of Finance. So I hope you maybe take a reconsider that, please. Thanks.
Okay.
Please, Heather.
Yes, again, thank you so much. And also just the amount of time that you put all of this together. Oh, sorry.
Your,
She has.
and
Sorry.
pull it close, thanks.
Thank you for all you've done for us and in the speed that you did it. I think we got it to you kind of late. But my biggest things are also around the significant impact that planning and zoning and the Board of Finance have on the future of New Canaan. I think it's something to consider about whether appointed still serves us and reflects the community's expectations around accountability and participation. So those are my two main things. Thank you.
Thank you, Lena.
Okay, hi. I'll keep it short. Thank you. This is a very thorough, transparent process. I defer to your recommendations for all of it except for one. The only one is the requirement for property ownership for the Board of Finance. And that's all. Thank you.
Lena gets a prize.
Yeah. Done and done.
Christina. Oh, Christina.
Oh,
Yeah.
Christina.
Yes, last but not least. Okay, first I want to thank everybody on the commission. I think that this has been a no man's job and you have executed it successfully secured a direction for us, but yet I feel that we still need to include some thoughts perhaps for your commission to consider. And one of the important things is there seems to be a perception that we are limited to 5 questions on the ballot. And I'd like to just say that in my research, the ballot can be 8.5 by 11, 11 by 14, 17 by 11. There are different options for it, and you can have it also printed on both sides. So there's no necessarily limit to the number of questions, but there definitely has to be a focus on what are the most important questions and what are we leaving off the table that we should bring to the voters to consider. I agree with Mike and many others that some of the votes were just too close to call, like PNC, and we need to bring it back to the voters for them to consider. I also want to highlight the separation of powers is paramount to the way in which our government functions. And being that the Board of Finance is appointed as an example, there's been nothing to address the fact that the separation of powers does not exist if the first selectman sits as the ex officio on the Board of Finance. There's definitely a direction, and just by comparison, there's a perception that whatever is dictated from the Board of Selectmen as a recommendation to the Board of Finance could be misinterpreted as the right way to go because that person is directing it. So there's no separation of powers for the Board of Finance to really say no, or to say we need to look at this. I rarely, if ever, see that. The same thing goes for other boards and commissions. Increasing the number of commissioners to an odd number removes the first selectman as ex officio on many of these boards and commissions, which is an integral part of the democratic process. If you're appointing a board that has given their time and effort to a cause, should somebody come in and break the vote, or should the commission be left to do it on their own and deliberate? So I just think that the separation of powers is so monumental to this process. And there are a couple of other suggestions that I'll just put in writing, but thank you so much for your work and the effort you put forth in this.
All right, Christina, thank you. That was well said. All right, so for the next hour, see if you guys were awake or had glasses on that just make your eyes look like they're open. All right, everyone, thank you. We're gonna wrap it up for the night, because we have another session next Wednesday. I would ask, obviously, the CRC be here next Wednesday, I think for some, actually interactive process. What I wanted now is to just kind of filter out and winnow down, what are we really looking at? And I think already I'm starting to see there's probably a lot of agreement on a lot of things, and we're all kind of focused on 3 or 4 top line items. At least that's how I see it now. If I'm wrong, we can talk about it on Wednesday. And I do think, I know our caucus is meeting again before the next meeting, and also my colleagues across the aisle, as they say, are going to meet as well. So I think we can do a lot of work internally there and continue to manage this process and keep it as precise and wieldy or unwieldy?
Unwieldy.
Unwieldy. No, we want it to be wieldy.
Wieldy. It's guaranteed to be wieldy.
Yeah,
We're gonna
Anyway.
try to unwield it.
Exactly. So we'll keep it as tight as possible. So with that said, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Eric makes the motion. Mike seconds it. All in favor? Motion passes. Thank you, everyone.
Meeting, everybody.
And I'm
Thank you.
We
covered a lot. Thank you.
Frank and
Thank you, everybody.